Chapter 36-35. When the lady stopped moving, leaned against the chair, and closed her eyes, Yi-Ching Luo asked with a smile, "How do you feel now?" The lady remained silent for a moment, very cold and a little itchy. "Can you resist not scratching?" Yi-Ching Luo continued to ask. "Yes." The lady took a deep breath, her nails clenched into a ball. "As long as my face is like a normal person, I can bear it. It's all right. Hold on until your face is itchy, or when you can't stand the cold, you can tell me." Yi-Ching Luo comforted her gently. The lady replied with an "in." Everyone's attention was focused on the lady's face. The lady sat stiffly on the chair, eyes closed, her body tensed up. After applying the beauty cream, there was no change at all. About the time it took to burn a stick of incense had passed. The citizen's patience was exhausted. Especially the lady's burnt and pitted face, there was no change at all. Suddenly, they felt that they had been played. As time went by, the dissatisfied discussions among the citizens grew louder. Some even said that the treasure gathering was lying. If it wasn't for Old Lie, that big Buddha, sitting there sloppily, some of the ill-tempered citizens would have directly overturned the tables and chairs. However, no matter how the surrounding citizens discussed and ridiculed, Yi-Ching Luo and the rest were all calm, their gazes fixed on the lady's face. Yi-Ching Luo would occasionally ask the lady how she felt. Just as some citizens' legs were aching from standing and didn't want to waste any more time among the crowd, a voice suddenly rang. "Lu Tofu's daughter. Her body keeps trembling. Is she going to kill someone?" This was like a stone that stirred up 1,000 ripples. The impatient mood of the citizens was immediately affected by the gossiping. "What? Human life? Right, look. That lady's body keeps trembling. It's obviously not normal. Gathering treasures. Hurry up and wipe off the stuff on her face. You're asking for her life." Sure enough, we can't have any hopes for the treasure gathering. Everything is fake. They only know how to lie to their customers. And now they're trying to kill someone. Go report to the authorities. We must not let these unscrupulous businessmen taint our without embroiling city. After one person took the lead, all the rhythm was brought over by those words. For a moment, more than half of the thousands of people surrounding them were clamoring to report the incident to the authorities. No matter how much Pei Sheng's mentality had changed, he still couldn't help it. Faced with such a situation, he was more or less panicking. Yi-Ching Luo glanced sideways at Pei Sheng, indicating him not to worry. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he glanced in the direction of the rhythm of talking about human lives. Coincidentally, he saw Xiao Yulu, who was wearing a white veil and a black veil over her face. Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows. As expected, Xiao Yulu came as well. Those words must have come from Xiao Yulu's bodyguard, right? The corners of her mouth lifted slightly. He was afraid that Xiao Yulu would be disappointed again. Yi-Ching Luo's expression didn't change in the slightest when she was facing everyone's accusations. She leaned over and whispered in the woman's ear, "Is it too cold and itchy? You can't stand it anymore?" The woman's voice trembled as she said, If I hold on a little longer, will I be able to recover better?" Chapter 36-36. Yi-Ching Luo paused and continued. "Although the longer you use the beauty cream, the better it will be for your face. But if you force yourself to endure it, there will be some effects." The lady's hand clenched tightly. She had been restraining herself from scratching her face. She remained silent for a while, probably because she heard Yi-Ching Luo's words, or probably because she couldn't hold it in any longer. She said in a trembling voice, "I can't take it anymore." Yi-Ching Luo held the lady's hand and looked sideways at Xiao Yinyan. "Please help me get a basin of water." In order to avoid getting into trouble, Yi-Ching Luo specially asked Pei Sheng to bring a basin of water by the side. Xiao Yinyan took the basin and scooped a basin of water over. Yi-Ching Luo supported the lady and touched the basin. "Now, wash your face with water." The lady obeyed and bent over to wash her face. While washing, the lady's body started to tremble even more. The crowd who had stopped the clamoring and discussion because of the lady washing her face started to clamor again, that the lady's life was in danger and so on. The lady washed her face and slowly raised her head from the basin. Her wet hair stuck to both her cheeks. The lady covered her face with both her hands, her fingers trembling slightly. Seeing the lady raise her head, those clamoring people quietened down and stared straight at the lady's face. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Her long and narrow eyes gave a faint arc. "Take your hand down. Let everyone see your face." The lady's trembling hands moved away from her face bit by bit. At that moment, the surrounding people burst into an uproar. Her face! Heavens! How is this possible? How did her face really recover? Is this really the same person as the ugly girl just now? I don't believe it. The citizens were astonished. One by one, they widened their eyes, looking at the lady's face in disbelief. The lady stood in front of the table and chair. There was still water on her face, slowly sliding down. Her face, which was originally full of scars, was filled with scars. At this moment, she had completely recovered the face that a lady should have. Her facial features were regular, her skin fair and delicate, although there were still some faint scars on her face. But those were not too obvious. In short, after the potholes of rotten flesh on his face were removed, he turned around. The woman became much more beautiful and charming. The citizens couldn't believe their eyes. Especially, they had witnessed with their own eyes the woman with such a terrifying face had regained her smooth and tender skin. He had personally witnessed the process of an ugly girl becoming a beauty. Yiqing Luo placed the bronze mirror in the lady's hands as she smiled and looked towards the crowd. "I know that you must have some suspicions in your hearts. How about this? I'll find 2 people as representatives to check if this young lady's face is real or fake." Everyone immediately expressed their desire to be a representative. They all wanted to see for themselves whether this magical cream was real or not. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin and said, "I can't just randomly find one. Otherwise, if you insist that you're the one who hired the treasure house, then it won't be clear." Her gaze swept across the crowd. Suddenly, her slender white hand pointed in a certain direction. "Why don't I trouble the Empyrean Fairy to help me examine it?" The direction which Yiqing Luo was pointing at was exactly the direction where Xiao Yulu was standing. Everyone looked towards the direction that Yiqing Luo was pointing at. When he saw Xiao Yulu. Chapter 36-37. Xiao Yulu's eyes were gloomy like a sharp blade as she stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo didn't seem to notice her steely expression as she smiled even more brilliantly. "Mysterious maiden, what do you think?" The hearts of the onlookers were thumping nonstop. They were very clear. The grudge between Bao and Princess Yulu. And they were very clear about the bet regarding the auction, especially when the citizens were well aware of it. Yesterday's gossip was related to Princess Yulu. Now, Di Luo directly asked Princess Yulu to check on that lady's face, to see if it was real or fake, to check the authenticity of the beauty ointment. This meant that Di Luo had full confidence in the facial beauty ointment. As long as Princess Yulu confirmed that the lady's face had really recovered to normal skin, the efficacy of the beauty ointment was absolutely not fake. Under the hopeful gazes of the citizens, Xiao Yulu clenched her fists tightly as she walked out slowly under the escort of her guards. She raised her head slightly with an arrogant look as her voice was slightly cold. "How do you want me to check?" Yiqing Luo smiled as she shook her head. "Mysterious maiden, don't be anxious, we still need to find another one." Her gaze took a look at the crowd. She walked directly towards the front of the crowd, toward the plain-looking man who was about 40 years old. "Uncle Lu, can I trouble you to personally check on your daughter's face?" The citizens recognized him. That plain-looking man was Old Tofu Lu, who sold tofu on the neighboring street. Old Tofu Lu's eyes stared intently at his daughter's face as his eyes were filled with agitation. Under Yiqing Luo's support, he trembled as he walked to the front of the lady. Old Tofu Lu first touched the lady's face. His action was obviously very light and careful, as though he was testing. He was afraid that if he was not careful, he would ruin his daughter's face, which had finally recovered. Under Yi Qing Luo's guidance, old Tofu Lu's strength increased slightly. In the end, he confirmed that his daughter's face had indeed recovered to normal. Even the ordinary pinching and rubbing had the feeling of normal skin. Old Tofu Lu was so agitated that tears fell down on the spot, looking at the father and daughter pair crying together. Everyone's hearts had more or less believed in the beauty ointment's efficacy. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she looked at Xiao Yu Lu. Mysterious maiden can also touch Miss Lu's face personally. Xiao Yu Lu's face darkened. She was the one who had personally used the facial cream. The beauty cream could even restore her face, which had already been corroded. Not to mention an ordinary burn. Di Luo had purposely asked her to come out at this time to check if it was real. It was obvious that he was deliberately making things difficult for her. Xiao Yulu's eyes sunk coldly as she gritted her teeth and stared at Yi Qing Luo. You clearly said yesterday that there's only 10 bottles of beauty cream left. Yi Qing Luo blinked her eyes as she gave an innocent smile. That's right, there were indeed only 10 bottles yesterday. But yesterday's rumors and slanders had a huge impact on our treasure gathering, so I can only try my best to refine another bottle of beauty ointment to clear up our treasure gathering's name. She paused for a moment, and her long and narrow eyes curved, revealing a hint of mischief. After all, this is the cream that even the Empyrean fairy wants. If I were to be influenced by the gossip, wouldn't that be mocking the taste of the Empyrean fairy? Are you fooling me? Xiao Yulu was so infuriated by Yi Qing Luo's words that she almost threw up blood. Her entire body's muscles tightened into a ball as her gaze turned icy cold. Leave the rest of that bottle of beauty cream to me. I will testify on behalf of that ugly woman. Chapter 36-38. Xiao Yulu's eyes turned cold. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. The beauty cream's effect cannot be faked. If you really want to use your mysterious maiden's reputation and treasure-gathering bar, I have no objections. As she spoke, she put the beautifying cream away in front of Xiao Yulu's eager gaze. Of course, if the mystic fairy has made up her mind not to bid for the beautifying cream at the auction, I wouldn't mind the mystic fairy and the treasure-gathering alliance fighting. Yi Qing Luo's words had completely blocked Xiao Yulu's way out. How could Xiao Yulu not want the beauty cream? Her face was totally different from old man Lu's tofu daughter's scalded wounds. Ordinary wounds could be recovered after using it once or twice. But her face had been corroded by the erased spirit's evil chi. If she wanted her face to recover completely, at least she had to use another bottle or 2 of beauty cream. Xiao Yulu was very clear about this. In front of Di Luo, she probably had no advantage at all. Di Luo dared to let the treasure-gathering bar test the beauty cream's effect in public. She must have done all the preparations. If she intentionally slandered her, the beauty cream was fake and that young lady's face was fake. Di Luo would definitely use other ways to prove it. As for her, mysterious maiden, she might even cause the citizens to lose confidence in her because of this. Most importantly, she was going to bid for the beauty cream in tomorrow's auction. Wouldn't that be slapping her own face? Various thoughts flashed past Xiao Yulu's mind. She couldn't help but clenched her fists. Slut! She was obviously determined to get the beauty cream no matter what. She intentionally schemed and forced her. However, for her own face, Xiao Yulu had no choice but to compromise. Suddenly, she heard a young lady pretending to be surprised. Xiao Yulu frowned as she stared at the young lady. But she saw the young lady's burning gaze staring at her face with one hand propping up her chin. Her long and narrow eyes were smiling in surprise. Even though the young lady was wearing a white veil, Xiao Yulu could see the young lady's pink lips under the veil, curling into a ridiculing smile. Xiao Yulu's heart trembled. The young lady's following words were definitely not something nice. Just as he was about to open his mouth and stop talking to Yi Qing Luo. However, the young girl was the first to speak. That's strange. The beautifying cream I left for Mystic Fairy that day should be enough for you to use until the auction. Why did you come to the gathering of treasures yesterday and ask me for the beautifying cream. Yiqing Luo's voice wasn't loud, but it was not small either. At the very least, the people at the front could hear it clearly. Immediately, the hearts of the citizens began to become active. Most people had heard that Princess Yulu had personally gone to treasure gathering to ask for the beautifying cream. But later, there were rumors that Princess Yulu went to Treasure Gathering Hall because Treasure Gathering Hall wanted to deceive its customers again. She wanted to persuade Treasure Gathering Hall to hand over the beautifying ointment so as to avoid harming others and herself. However, from Di Luo's words, it seemed like the truth wasn't like this. Did Princess Yulu use beauty cream before? And he even asked Di Luo for some beauty cream? Listening to the discussions of the citizens, Yi Zichen's eyes lit up. Xiao Yulu's face under the veil was so dark that it was scary. Her venomous gaze stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo remained unmoved as she blinked her eyes and looked at the maidservant Kai Dai, who shrunk her head and legs as she stood beside Xiao Yulu. A sliver of understanding flashed past her eyes. She leaned forward slightly and got close to Xiao Yulu's ear as she laughed softly. Surely Mystic Fairy didn't intentionally destroy Kai Dai's face to test if the beautifying cream is effective, using her face to test the beautifying cream, right? As her words fell, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Chapter 36-39. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Looked like she had guessed correctly. No wonder she felt something was amiss the minute she saw Kai Dai. Kai Dai's face had an obvious scar as she curled up beside Xiao Yulu, without the fox exploiting the tiger's might earlier. Xiao Yulu was indeed quite ruthless. Towards her personal maid who had taken care of her for so many years, she could be so ruthless. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she gave a helpless sigh. A bottle of beauty ointment was originally meant for you alone. Sigh. What a pity. Hearing Yiqing Luo's ambiguous tone, Xiao Yulu's heart felt as though something was exploding in her chest. Her gaze turned increasingly vicious, like a sharp blade, as though she wanted to dismember Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. However, Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change at all. Instead, she met her vengeful gaze. As though the angrier she got, the angrier she got. Yiqing Luo's smile became even more radiant and joyous. A face which is corroded by the demonic qi is not something that can be solved by a bottle of beauty ointment. It needs to be used continuously for at least 3 days and cannot be interrupted. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she pretended to speak carelessly. Originally, that bottle of beauty ointment was enough for you to use for 3 days. Alas, you don't believe me. She shrugged her shoulders as she gave a helpless sigh. Not using it for 3 days and interrupting the beauty ointment midway. Your face is even more troublesome. If I didn't guess wrongly, the skin on your face is starting to fester again, right? Xiao Yulu's pupils constricted. Yiqing Luo, who noticed the small details, her pink lips curled into a deep smile. Aya, mysterious maiden, what should you do? Is your face more important, or is it more important? This is really a difficult choice. Xiao Yulu was so infuriated that she wanted to vomit blood. How would she not understand the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words? Di Luo, don't be complacent too early. She gritted her teeth as she spat out these few words, flicked her sleeves, and turned around to leave. The group of guards behind him immediately followed suit. Yiqing Luo waved towards the direction where Xiao Yulu left. Mysterious maiden, remember to come to tomorrow's auction. I'll be waiting for your good news. Xiao Yulu almost staggered when Xiao Yulu's figure completely disappeared on both sides of the street. Only then did the citizens dare to speak. Why did Princess Yulu leave without saying anything? Aren't you going to check the face of old Lu's Tofu's daughter? What does Princess Yulu mean by this? The conversation between Xiao Yulu and Yiqing Luo. Other than those words, which Yiqing Luo intentionally let the surrounding citizens hear. As for the other words, Yiqing Luo intentionally suppressed her voice. Xiao Yulu left angrily. Everyone was curious. What did Di Luo say to make Princess Yulu leave in anger? Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders as she spread out her hands. I'm not sure about mysterious maiden's thoughts. Maybe it's because she wants to buy the beauty ointment at a high price. And besides the 10 bottles of beauty ointment that treasure gathering brought to the auction, there are no other beauty ointment. So Mystic Fairy is angry. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, as though they were contemplating whether Yiqing Luo's words were true or false. However, what caught most people's attention was there were only 10 bottles of beautifying cream left. 10 bottles. It was a cream that could turn an ugly woman into a beautiful woman. How could only 10 bottles be enough? Based on Princess Yulu's character, if the beauty ointment was fake, she would have exposed treasure gathering in public. How could she possibly leave without saying anything? Chapter 3640. Everyone in Without Embroiling City knew. The day Princess Yulu returned to Without Embroiling City, she started a feud with a woman called Di Luo. The two of them even made a life and death bet because of the treasure gathering exchange. Moreover, there was the matter of treasure gathering being smeared by a series of rumors and slanders yesterday. It was obviously Princess Yulu's doing. If the beauty ointment was fake, if the father-daughter duo colluded with the treasure gathering exchange to put on a show, Princess Yulu would definitely take this opportunity to make things difficult for them. So, the beauty ointment of the treasure gathering exchange was definitely authentic. Especially when Princess Yulu personally asked for the beauty ointment, it was definitely true. As a result, the citizens were looking forward to the beauty ointment even more. There were even people who booked future beauty ointment with the treasure gathering exchange. The rumors that smeared the treasure gathering exchange seemed to be unable to extinguish the citizens' yearning for the beauty ointment. When Xiao Yulu heard the news about the beauty ointment, she was so angry that she vomited blood on the spot. She was so angry that she vomited blood. She originally wanted to use the rumors to smear the treasure gathering exchange and make Di Luo's plan fail. But unexpectedly, she spent a lot of manpower, material resources, and financial resources to smear the treasure gathering exchange. Instead, it helped the treasure gathering exchange. Instead, it made the beauty ointment even more legendary. In addition, she humbly asked the leader of the bloody mercenaries, Su Qingbing, to personally come forward and accuse the treasure gathering exchange of using Bloody's fame for its own benefit, and that the beauty ointment was fake. But Su Qingbing did not take her, the mysterious lady, seriously at all. She directly rejected her proposal. Unfortunately, she was just a mysterious lady who had just become Without Embroiling City. She had no way to order or threaten Bloody. She could only return in disappointment. He didn't expect that, just after she left the treasure gathering exchange. The leader of the bloody mercenaries, Su Qingbing, personally led the mercenaries to the entrance of the treasure gathering exchange. She personally admitted the effect of the beauty ointment. This was a clear slap in her face. It could be said that after the series of things that happened today, the beauty ointment's value would increase by several times. The value of the beauty ointment would increase by several times. Xiao Yulu really vomited blood. If this continued, it was very likely that treasure gathering auction would win the honor of the best auction house. She must think of a way to let Zhong Chung Exchange's limelight surpass that of treasure gathering before the auction tomorrow. But these thoughts, Xiao Yulu didn't have time to implement it. The reason for that was because the Qiao family's master just so happened to see him vomiting blood. Therefore, family head Qiao was worried and depressed and wanted to invite a doctor to take a look at Xiao Yulu. Xiao Yulu was impatient and wanted to go to the Zhong Chung trading firm. How could Patriarch Qiao be at ease? This pull and pull. The black veil on Xiao Yulu's face was torn off. Under the veil, half of her festering face was a ghastly sight. This also shocked Qiao family head. Yiqing Luo had heard these things from Qiao Inyan's mouth. It was said that Xiao Yulu's disfigured smile had spread throughout the entire Qiao residence. Xiao Yulu was forced to stay in the room to rest. Many doctors surrounded Xiao Yulu's room and studied her face. Chapter 3641. Qiao Yinan nodded. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. Even if Master Qiao doesn't make a move, she will definitely bid for it. The reason for that was because no woman would be able to tolerate any problems with her face. especially for a lady like Xiao Yulu who valued looks the most. Even if Xiao Yulu wasn't willing to lose the bet, she wasn't willing to let Yi Qing Luo be complacent. Xiao Yulu would definitely bid for the beautifying cream. But Yi Qing Luo's expression suddenly turned grave. She shouldn't compromise so easily. Even if she has no time to deal with the treasure gathering, she should put her thoughts on the Zhong Cheng exchange hall. She paused and suddenly raised her head. I suggest that you guard the door of her room tonight. Xiao Yinyan was stunned and immediately understood something as his expression congealed. What you mean is there's a possibility that she will contact that group of people who set up the soul-devouring array. Those people's target might be me. If Mysterious Maiden wants to target me, those people will naturally make use of Mysterious Maiden to deal with me. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. If those people help Mysterious Maiden, not to mention whether Mysterious Maiden can win the bet with me, the most important thing is it will definitely affect the Qiao family. Yi Qing Luo didn't wish for the Qiao family to be implicated because of Xiao Yulu's mistake. Xiao Yinyan's expression turned grave. Only dare to hide in the dark and use a borrowed knife to kill a rat. Dare to make use of our Qiao family. I will explain this matter to father and send more people to watch over Princess Yulu to prevent Palace Mistress Yulu from contacting those people. Yi Qing Luo curled her lips at him. You don't have to be too nervous. Perhaps I'm thinking too much. Just in case, we still need to pay attention. To be able to create a sinister array with a formation core spirit in the West Cliff Mountain, the other party's ability was definitely not weak. But why didn't they dare to show themselves? Instead, they used this method to hide in the dark and pay attention to them. This made one have no choice but to guard against them. Xiao Yinyan stood up with a heavy expression as he prepared to leave the treasure gathering exchange hall. Looking at Xiao Yinyan's back view, Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as she suddenly said, Yinyan, it seems. You've never asked why. Xiao Yinyan stopped in his tracks. After a moment of silence, he turned around. Yi Qing Luo met his gaze and spoke out softly. You should be able to guess that those people's identities and abilities aren't weak. Aren't you curious why they would target me when I'm just an ordinary person? It seemed like ever since she met Xiao Yinyan, no matter what happened to her, Xiao Yinyan was not curious even once. If it was her, she would definitely be suspicious. It was just like, after she saw that Pei Sheng was not affected by the soul-devouring array, she had some speculations about Pei Sheng. However, Xiao Yinyan had never been surprised by what had happened to her. A warm smile slowly appeared on Xiao Yinyan's handsome face. It made her elegant face look even more ethereal. His thin lips moved, and he said word by word with a smile. When you are willing to speak, I will listen. In short, I believe you. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Xiao Yinyan had an inexplicable good impression of her, and a few times of unconditional help. She really couldn't understand Xiao Yinyan's feelings for her. If she said that Xiao Yinyan liked her. But to tell the truth, she really didn't feel that Xiao Yinyan liked her. If she said that he didn't. Chapter 3642. Yi Qing Luo sighed. You can't guess a man's thoughts. No matter how you guessed, you wouldn't be able to guess. Then we'll talk about it when I feel like it. Yi Qing Luo waved her hand weakly at him. Go keep an eye on your sister. I'll go take a look at Zishi's situation. Forget it. It's better not to ask. If she continued asking, perhaps Xiao Yinyan would flirt with her again. She couldn't possibly ask directly, hey, do you like me? Don't like me. I have a fiancé? If she really said that, when they meet again, wouldn't it be awkward to death? Most importantly, she wasn't sure. Was Xiao Yinyan's feeling towards her the kind of love between a man and a woman? Xiao Yinyan returned to the Qiao residence and explained to Patriarch Qiao about the black-robed men. Patriarch Qiao was extremely shocked, but he believed that his son wouldn't lie. So he secretly sent the secret guards to guard Xiao Yulu's door tightly. Nothing happened that night. Only the Qiao family didn't know. Xiao Yulu was in a flustered and exasperated state, using a pen to poke the paper which was filled with Di Luo's name, cursing Di Luo venomously. When a light breeze blew past, her eyes suddenly turned blurry and she laid sprawled on the table, unconscious. From the secret guard's point of view, Xiao Yulu seemed to be tired of cursing and laid on the table to rest. The current Xiao Yulu's consciousness had fallen into a temporary darkness. What was bright again? That red-robed young lady with a white veil appeared in front of her, smiling sweetly as she looked at her with ridicule. That young lady was like a high and mighty queen, looking down on everything. His mouth continued to say humiliating words to her. Xiao Yulu stared at the young lady in front of her as her pupils contracted. Indescribable hatred and anger filled her chest. Finally, under the young lady's contemptuous smile, Xiao Yulu let out an angry howl. Her fists clenched tightly as she punched towards the young lady's face. Bam! The young lady was punched onto the ground. However, that radiant and enchanting face was still sneering at him. Xiao Yulu's eyes were bloodshot as she pounced forward, beating and tearing the young lady. Once and again and again. It wasn't until the young girl's body was completely unrecognizable that she stopped, panting heavily. Did you vent your anger? Suddenly, an ethereal voice sounded in the surroundings. It was as if it was ringing in his ears. Xiao Yulu straightened her back in shock and quickly looked around. If you think that's the best way to vent your anger, I can help you make the real Imperial Fall look like this. That voice seemed to be filled with bewitchment. Who are you? Who is it? Xiao Yulu looked around cautiously. The Empyrean Fairy is really forgetful. Didn't we just cooperate a few days ago? The voice laughed in a low voice. Xiao Yulu's eyes narrowed as rage filled her face. It's you guys? The ones who created the soul-devouring array. How dare you appear in front of this Empress? She stood up angrily, her eyes burning with anger. Because of that so-called formation, her face had almost been swallowed by the formation, causing her to be disfigured. This group of people had deceived her. They said that she would help to lure Imperial Fall to West Cliff Mountain so that she would have the chance to kill Yiqing Luo personally. She had not expected that she almost became the array's food. This group of people totally didn't want to help her sincerely. Chapter 3643. In the face of Xiao Yulu's anger, the voice chuckled in a low voice. The laughter was sinister and cold. Xiao Yulu was so infuriated that her chest heaved up and down as her eyes turned red. What are you laughing at? Why must mysterious maiden be angry? Haven't we agreed, right from the start, that we are only making a deal? That voice said calmly, I'll help you lure that woman into the West Cliff Mountain. Whether you can kill her or not will depend on your own ability. That voice paused for a moment as its tone was filled with ridicule and ridicule. Your ability is not up to par. Don't tell me you blame us. You. Xiao Yulu's face flushed red as she gritted her teeth and roared. You're obviously the one who lied to me. Didn't you tell me that that's the soul-devouring array? If it wasn't for the fact that I have the protective talisman, which Ling Long Palace Lord had passed to me, I would have died in that array. Her face, which was as beautiful as a flower and as beautiful as a fairy, would not have turned into such a state. She wouldn't lower herself to get the beauty cream from Yiqing Luo's hands. All of this was because of this group of people. They actually dared to appear, and even wanted to make use of her. That voice laughed sinisterly. Oh, really? Even if we tell you that's the soul-devouring array, will you really give up the only chance to kill that woman personally and not step into the soul-devouring array? Not waiting for Xiao Yulu to reply, that voice continued to laugh. No, you will. Xiao Yulu's mouth moved, but ultimately she couldn't say any words of rebuttal. Yes, she would. Even if she knew it was the soul-devouring array, she would still enter the array. So what's the point of saying it or not? Anyway, it won't affect your decision, right? The voice chuckled again. Xiao Yulu's brows creased tightly as she felt that something was amiss. But she felt that what that voice said seemed to make sense. Not waiting for Xiao Yulu to think carefully, that voice rang again. I have a deal here. Do you want to do it? Xiao Yulu pursed her lips as she hesitantly scanned the surroundings. It was a patch of gray, and she couldn't sense any other signs of life. But that voice seemed as though it was right beside her ears. She pondered for a moment, as if she was thinking about the other party's purpose. The other party didn't rush him either. After a long silence, she slowly said, What deal? The voice laughed. I have an item here that will definitely fetch the highest price in the auction. It can help you suppress the treasures gathering exchange haul and win the bet with that woman. Xiao Yulu's eyes lit up. What is it? As long as you agree, that thing will appear in the auction in the name of Zhong Sheng trading firm tomorrow morning. The voice didn't intend to answer Xiao Yulu's question. Xiao Yulu furrowed her brows. How can I believe you? You can only choose to believe. The voice lowered its voice and revealed a trace of bewitching intent. Could it be that you don't want the treasure gathering to fail, and you don't want that woman to crawl beneath your feet? Just like that. A voice sounded in the direction of the voice. Xiao Yulu subconsciously looked in the direction of the young girl whom she had just beaten up. The girl in red fell to the ground, battered and battered. Xiao Yulu's eyes narrowed as a blazing flame spread in her eyes. Fine, I can believe you guys one more time. Then what do you want me to do? Chapter 3644. The next day, the auction. All the citizens of the main cities had rushed over to participate in the annual Without Embroiling Cities auction. The entire Without Embroiling City was bustling with activity. Especially the citizens of Without Embroiling City. They were in high spirits. There were even people who set up bets on who would win the bet, Princess Yulu or Misty Luo. Yiqing Luo and the rest handed over their invitation and entered the auction. That was even more shocking. The scene of the auction could no longer be described as explosive. The auction in the land domain was an extremely important event. It was an annual event. It was a gathering of all the auction houses in the entire Earth realm to participate in this event. The participating auction houses would be ranked according to the amount of crystal stones they bid on the spot. For 5 consecutive years, the auction house with the lowest number of bids would have its marketing rights revoked. This was the reason why the 3 main cities' mysterious fairies left the Linglong Hall and returned to the main cities. Most importantly, the annual auction was not exclusive to Without Embroiling City. It was for the 3 main cities to compete for the right to host the auction. This was similar to the Olympic Games. Which country would it be held in? It was extremely significant. This year, Without Embroiling City had won the right to host the auction. This made City Lord Lu extremely excited. The auction would be held in the main city of Without Embroiling City at the venue. Without Embroiling City was the largest venue in Without Embroiling City. It was used to receive outsiders and VIPs from the upper realm. After Yiqing Luo walked into Without Embroiling City, she estimated that it could accommodate at least 30,000 people. This venue was divided into 2 floors. The first floor was the reception hall. There were many benches placed there, and all of them were already full. There were a lot of people standing in the surrounding aisles. It completely explained the true meaning of a sea of people. On the second floor, there were boxes one after another. After one round, there were at least 100 to 200 private rooms. These were used to receive VIPs and representatives of the top 50 auction houses. Since 5 years ago, after that incident at the Treasure Exchange, Pei Sheng had never been to the second floor. But this time, perhaps it was because of Yiqing Luo and Xiao Yulu's bet. Or perhaps it was because Old Lai was by her side. City Lord Lu arranged a private room on the second floor for the Treasure Exchange. Moreover, the location was not bad. Yiqing Luo expressed that this was absolutely in order to please Old Lai, in order to have a relationship with the Hell Palace, so she specially arranged it. After entering the private room, Pei Sheng was obviously somewhat restrained. His body was tense, and his face was tense. Her eyes were slightly red. Yiqing Luo understood Pei Sheng's feelings very well. For Pei Sheng, the Treasures Exchange Hall was what kept him going. It had always been his dream. They stepped onto the second floor. This was equivalent to the acknowledgement of his treasure-gathering exchange hall. Moreover, today was the day that the future of the Treasures Exchange House would be decided. In his heart, he was both excited and nervous. They sat in the private room and looked at the sea of people on the first floor. Pei Sheng was so nervous that his palms were sweating. Luo, how many people do you think are here for the beauty cream? Men pursue strength and strength, while women pursue beauty above strength. Don't underestimate a woman's obsession with beauty. Yiqing Luo smiled at him. Relax, don't be too nervous. Pei Sheng nodded vigorously, clenched his fists, and took a deep breath. He wanted to calm down. Chapter 36:45. The more he tried to calm down, the more anxious he felt. There was a trace of embarrassment on Pei Sheng's handsome face. I'm going out for a walk. I'll be back soon. Looking at the embarrassed look in the man's eyes, Yiqing Luo knew that too. This kid was probably so nervous that he wanted to go to the toilet. However, the door of the private room was just closed. Yiqing Luo heard an extremely sharp and unkind voice coming from outside the door. Yo, isn't this Boss Pei? Then a few mocking laughs rang out. Judging from the laughter, there were about 4 people. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. From his tone, it was obvious that he was here to cause trouble. She waved her sleeve. A surge of profound energy slightly opened and closed the door. Yiqing Luo saw Pei Sheng standing at the entrance, and in front of him were 4 wealthy-looking young men dressed in brocade robes. Pei Sheng didn't want to bother with him. He turned around and was about to return to the private room. However, one of them reached out and stopped Pei Sheng. He smiled and said, "Boss Pei, don't be in such a hurry to leave. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Aren't you going to greet an old friend?" The other 3 immediately surrounded Pei Sheng. Trapped in the middle, Pei Sheng lowered his head and tensed up. "I have nothing to say to you." "Yo, Boss Pei, you sure talk big." The man clicked his tongue and laughed. "I heard that treasure-gathering house has climbed up the ladder and is preparing to win the honor of the best auction house in this auction. Is that why you're so proud of yourself?" Even though the man was praising Pei Sheng, however, it was obvious that they were mocking him. Pei Sheng's eyes were filled with anger. He struggled to break free from the man's hand and glared at him. "What happens to the treasure gathering has nothing to do with you. How could it have nothing to do with me? After all, we used to be brothers." The man winked and smiled as he hooked his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder. Pei Sheng was so angry that his eyes turned red. He grabbed the man's hand and shook it off. "Don't touch me. I don't know someone like you. Don't insult the word brother." The man who was flung away did not get angry. The other 3 men looked at each other and burst into laughter. Pei Sheng's face was filled with anger. However, he also knew that the auction was just around the corner, and he couldn't allow anything to go wrong at this moment. He suppressed his anger and looked at the person in front of him. "Get out of the way." The man who was pushed away came forward with a cheeky smile. "TSK, after 5 years, Boss Pei can finally come to the 2nd floor of the auction again. Is it because City Lord Liu feels that after today, the signboard of the Treasure's trading house will be taken down, and he feels pity for you? So he is giving you one last chance to sit in the box on the 2nd floor?" Young Master Wang's words. "That's true. How can a trashy auction house like Treasure Gathering be qualified to sit in our private room on the 2nd floor? Isn't that lowering the status of our 2nd floor?" Right. We're all auction houses that are ranked in the top 50. The owner of a trashy auction house wants to sit with us? Is he looking down on us? Let's ask City Lord Liu what this means." When the men heard this, they cooperated and sang together. He even looked at Pei Sheng with disdain. "Why does a person like you have to stand here? Do you still want to learn from your father's trick from 5 years ago? Fooling all the guests like fools? You don't want to learn anything, but you have to learn from your father, that liar." The 3 men kept humiliating him with words. Chapter 36:46. Young Master Wang, who had his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder, moved closer to Pei Sheng with his slightly plump body. He leaned close to Pei Sheng's ear and let out a low, evil laugh. "Boss Pei, on account of our past relationship, I can help to persuade my brothers to let you stay on the 2nd level of the trading house, which represents the honor of the trading house, on the last day that the trading house still exists." Young Master Wang's voice paused for a moment. There was an indescribable meaning in his laughter. "Of course, you also know that I won't do a losing business. I'll help you this time. How are you going to repay me?" Under the pincer attack of the 4 men, Pei Sheng's slender body trembled slightly. He hung his head. His excessively long hair cast a shadow that covered half of his face, as well as his expression. Pei Sheng remained unmoved. He didn't even struggle. Young Master Wang, who was close to Pei Sheng, became even bolder. His hands went straight towards Pei Sheng's body and started to touch her in the private room. Xiao Yinyan and Lao Lai both saw the scene outside the door. Lao Lai couldn't stand it anymore. His face darkened. "How dare you touch the person under my protection? Are you looking down on the underworld palace?" He slammed the table and was about to rush out of the room. Xiao Yinyan frowned and looked at Yiqing Luo. "Ah, Luo, aren't you going to help?" As he spoke, he stood up. As soon as Pei Sheng was stopped by the four men, Xiao Yinyan and Old Lai had already made their moves. But seeing that Yiqing Luo had yet to make a move, only then did they endure it. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as her slender brows creased slightly, as though she was pondering over something. She stared unblinkingly at Pei Sheng outside the door. When she saw that the man's hand was already reaching for Pei Sheng's, but her frown deepened. A layer of red light appeared in his eyes. She stood up and was about to follow them out of the private room. Suddenly, her eyes flashed as if she had seen something. He reached out and grabbed Xiao Yinyan and Old Lai's arms. "Wait." The two of them stopped and turned their heads towards Yiqing Luo in puzzlement. Was he not going to help Pei Sheng? If he still didn't make a move, Pei Sheng was about to be molested by a man. Yiqing Luo's gaze was fixed on the front as she said word by word, "Look." Just then a bang sound of collision rang out. What followed was a blood-curdling scream. The two of them looked over at the same time. In the next instant, his pupils unconsciously dilated. His mouth also unconsciously opened wide. They saw. At the door, Pei Sheng, who looked like a little lamb that had been bullied, reached out and grabbed the hand that was still moving down her waist. "Kacha!" The sound of bones breaking rang out. Pei Sheng broke young Master Wang's hand without hesitation. Then, he raised his leg and kicked young Master Wang in the stomach. Young Master Wang let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying and crashed heavily into the door of the private room. The other three men were startled. He didn't expect Pei Sheng to make a move. Furthermore, it possessed such great power. He was still in a daze. Another man was punched directly in the face. The tip of his nose turned sour, and a stream of heat flowed down continuously. Following that, Pei Sheng executed another set of beautiful and smooth fighting moves and pressed the other three men onto the ground. That battle power was really dumbfounding. Even Old Lai and Xiao Yinyan, who had been interacting with Pei Sheng these few days, were shocked. Is this Brother Pei?" Xiao Yinyan asked in shock. Chapter 36:47. What made the two of them dumbfounded was even more surprising. After Pei Sheng knocked down the three men, he walked directly towards one of them. He pulled that man who was crying out in pain and punched that man's face. Left and right, punch after punch, as though he wanted to beat that man to death. That man was originally still able to cry out miserably as he struggled to break free from Pei Sheng. But as Pei Sheng's fist continued to fall, the man's voice became weaker and weaker. The three men beside him were so frightened that they didn't dare to help. This commotion attracted the VIPs in the surrounding cabins or the exchange house representatives to crowd around. "No way. The auction is about to start. If Brother Pei creates trouble at this time, he will be disqualified from participating in the auction." Xiao Yinyan looked at the surrounding people who were pointing at Pei Sheng, talking about something, and his expression instantly turned grave. Yiqing Luo frowned when she heard that. This was probably Xiao Yulu's design. She intentionally wanted to provoke Pei Sheng, using the auction's rules to disqualify them from participating in the auction. Once Treasure's Exchange House couldn't participate in the auction, Treasure's Exchange House would not be able to obtain the honor of the best exchange house. The reason why she didn't make a move earlier was because she didn't understand this rule. Part of the reason was that he wanted to see what kind of power Pei Sheng possessed, because just as they were about to walk out of the cabin to help Pei Sheng, her profound jade heart suddenly surged with a scorching feeling. The profound jade heart's power extended to her eyes. She clearly saw Pei Sheng's body, encircled by a layer of golden glow which she couldn't see through. That glow was very dazzling, and it was releasing a dense energy. It made her profound jade heart very restless. Yiqing Luo also noticed it. other than the golden glow on Pei Sheng's body. The others, including Old Lai and Xiao Yinyin, didn't seem to notice Pei Sheng's abnormality. So, she pulled the both of them back. But she had not expected. As the golden glow became more and more brilliant, Pei Sheng was actually able to use his own power to directly take down 4 men whose abilities weren't weak. She pursed her lips. Looking at Pei Sheng, who had lost control, she said, "Pull him back first." Just as Xiao Yinyin was about to push open the door, his hand paused, and his expression changed slightly. "It's too late. City Lord Lu and the Executive Elder are here." Yiqing Luo looked over. City Lord Lu, who was dressed in a dark robe, and 2 old men who looked like immortals walked over quickly. When the 3 of them arrived, the onlookers cheered as they watched the show. City Lord Lu is here. The Executive Elder is here. The crowd dispersed, making way for City Lord Lu and the 2 Executive Elders. Amidst the hustle and bustle, Pei Sheng seemed as if he didn't hear it, and he still fiercely and barbarically punched the man who was on the verge of death. That ruthless look, it was like a beast that had been trapped for a long time. His entire body exuded a horrifying, evil aura. "Stop! Stop! What's going on?" When City Lord Lu walked over, he saw that Pei Sheng was still acting tyrannically. His face darkened, and he walked over with a stern roar. However, before he could get close to Pei Sheng suddenly raised his head, and a pair of bloodshot eyes, like a wild beast, stared fiercely at him. City Lord Lu was so shocked that his footsteps halted as his expression changed. Chapter 3648. Pei Sheng's action was obviously challenging the authority of the Executive Elder and Governor Lu. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, their faces darkened. Pei Sheng half knelt on the ground, one hand holding the man's collar, his fist full of blood. As he raised his head, his eyes were bloodshot as he glared at the person in front of him. It was as if he did not hear their words at all. The 2 Executive Elders looked at each other. Suddenly, he clenched his hands into fists and simultaneously moved towards Pei Sheng's left and right. His fingers were like eagle claws as he grabbed Pei Sheng's shoulders. A golden light flashed in Pei Sheng's eyes. The vicious aura of a trapped beast became more and more intense. The crowd could not help but sigh. Obviously, he was in a fight with the Executive Elder. TSK. They did not know which trading house dared to ignore the Executive Elder of the auction and even fight with him. There was such a wonderful show in this year's auction. It was a worthwhile trip. Just as the 2 Executive Elders approached Pei Sheng's aura surged. Suddenly, a hurricane came. Then, a white figure appeared in front of Pei Sheng, blocking his way. One on the left and one on the right. It held the arms of the Executive Elder. At the same time, a sweet voice sounded, "Executive Elder and Governor Lu, please forgive me." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. A figure that looked like a raging flame slowly approached Pei Sheng. The girl's red clothes were burning like fire. She had an outstanding temperament, and her every move revealed an aura that made people feel pressured. When everyone wanted to see the girl's face, it was covered by a white veil. However, the white veil was half covered, which made the girl more beautiful and unparalleled. "Miss, be careful of that person. He's not normal," someone reminded the girl who was approaching Pei Sheng out of good intentions. However, in the next moment, his eyes widened in shock. The girl slowly walked to Pei Sheng's side, bent down slightly, and covered Pei Sheng's head with her slender white hand. The aura of the man who was like a trapped beast was calmed down bit by bit. In the blink of an eye, the ruthless man had already let go of his hand. He swayed his body and got up. When Pei Sheng left the man who was violently beaten to death, a few men at the side immediately rushed forward and dragged him to the side. While dragging, he stared at Pei Sheng cautiously. He made sure that Pei Sheng didn't do anything. Only then did he feel relieved. Everyone's gaze fell on the young girl in unison. He seemed to be thinking about the girl's identity. Look at that man who was a head taller than the young girl. Just now, he was so fierce that even City Lord Lu didn't dare to approach him. At this moment, it was like an obedient pet, standing obediently behind the young girl. "Let go of me." Suddenly, An angry voice broke everyone's suspicions about the young girl. He shifted his gaze. Only then did he realize that just now, when the two executive elders wanted to hold Pei Sheng down and stop him from hurting more people, Pei Sheng's expression suddenly changed. It seemed like he had been intercepted. A single person intercepting two executive elders? How could they not pay attention to such a shocking thing? It seemed like, ever since the red-clothed girl appeared, all of their attention was involuntarily focused on the young girl. That red-clothed girl was simply poisonous. Everyone's gaze fell on the person who intercepted her. That person was wearing a gray robe that hung loosely on his body. His hair was neatly combed, but still a little messy. Chapter 36:49. But on that person's robe, there was a huge prison word. Everyone's expression changed as their eyes were filled with shock. Even the executive elder, who flew into a rage out of humiliation, turned pale. So, he was from the Hell Palace. No wonder he could block the two executive elders with his own power. Senior, Hell Palace. The executive elder spoke with an ugly expression. I didn't know that Hell Palace Senior was coming. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. After everyone heard the executive elder's words, they confirmed that this person in front of them was indeed from the Hell Palace. All of them were so shocked that they took several steps back. Their faces were filled with terror as they stared at Old Lai, as though they had seen some kind of dreadful beast. City Lord Lu saw Old Lai coming out and immediately went up to him with a smile. Hell Palace Senior, please calm down, please calm down. It's just a small misunderstanding. Please let go of the two executive elders first. In front of so many people, the executive elder of the auction was held in such a position by a person unable to resist or move. It was really damaging to the auction's reputation. Especially, this was without embroiling City. If they infuriated the Hell Palace Senior, in this auction, they would create a huge ruckus. The one who would suffer in the end would be him. He absolutely must not mess up this auction. City Lord Lu smiled along. Old Lai shot a glance towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Seeing Yi Qing Luo nodding, he released his hands and clapped his palms. We are all civilized people. Don't make a move so easily. Civilized people? People from the Hell Palace had the cheek to call themselves civilized people. He was cursing wildly in his heart, but he still hung a smile on his face as he nodded in agreement. What Hell Palace Senior said is right. We are all civilized people. Old Lai snorted and ignored City Lord Lu's fawning as he walked towards Pei Sheng's back and directly stretched out his hand, pulling Pei Sheng's ear. You brat, where did your brute force come from? I actually didn't realize that you have such an ability. Pei Sheng's handsome face surfaced a layer of sullen anger. His eyes were red as he stared at the man who had fainted on the ground. I don't care how he humiliates me, but he shouldn't have said that about my father. Those three men instantly reacted. No wonder Pei Sheng didn't hit anyone. Just focus on that kid and beat him up. Just because of that brat's words, Pei Sheng wanted to learn from his father, that swindler. This caused Pei Sheng to go crazy. Ahem, it's just a misunderstanding. It's fine, it's fine. City Lord Lu coughed lightly and tried to smooth things over, but not waiting for him to finish. However, the girl's clear and sweet voice suddenly became a little cold. The girl tilted her head slightly and looked at Pei Sheng with a cold expression. She asked, from your tone, it seems like you didn't do anything wrong, right? Pei Sheng met Yi Qing Luo's gaze, but it only lasted for several breaths before he shifted his gaze away. But his neck was raised high. He seemed to be saying that he didn't think he had hit the wrong person. Yi Qing Luo laughed. Right? You didn't do anything wrong. After venting out the resentment in your heart, no one dared to insult your father anymore. You feel that you're very powerful, right? Let's do it this way. In the future, if anyone says anything bad about your father, you can go up and beat them up until they're convinced. Beat them up until they don't dare to insult your father. How about that? Pei Sheng's body stiffened, and his pale face started to flush red. A pair of wandering gaze floated towards Yi Qing Luo's face from time to time. Chapter 3650. Pei Sheng pursed his lips into a thin line. Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms over her chest as she gave him a glance with a smile, which didn't look like a smile, her expression indifferent. The entire second floor fell into silence. No one spoke to break the stalemate. The atmosphere was getting heavier and heavier. It made everyone feel a little oppressed in their hearts. However, City Lord Liu did not say anything. The executive elder did not say anything. The senior from the underworld palace didn't say anything. The others didn't dare to make a sound. There was a moment of silence. Pei Sheng couldn't take the pressure. He lowered his head and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." "You're not wrong. How could you be wrong?" Yiqing Luo chuckled. Her attitude was cold. Pei Sheng's body trembled and he bent down. "Luo, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I was really wrong." Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she fixed her gaze on Pei Sheng for some time before she opened her mouth faintly. "Then tell me, where did you go wrong?" Pei Sheng's body stiffened again. He did not reply. Yiqing Luo took a glance at Old Lai. Lao Lai understood. He put his arm around Pei Sheng's shoulder and helped him up. Pei Sheng straightened his back. A pair of wandering eyes met with Yiqing Luo's slightly indifferent eyes. "There's no need for you to apologize to me. If you feel that you're not wrong, then you're not wrong." Yiqing Luo looked at him as she replied indifferently. Pei Sheng looked in her eyes. There seemed to be something surging in his heart. After a moment, he forcefully closed his eyes and said very slowly, "I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so impulsive. I shouldn't have used the future of treasure gathering just to vent my anger." The expression on Pei Sheng's face was complicated. "I know what you mean, Luo. You want me to face everything calmly and not be led by the nose by others." After he awoke from his rage, Pei Sheng knew that he was too impulsive. However, he did not regret it, because he would never allow anyone to insult his father. But, facing Yiqing Luo's flat tone of questioning, however, he couldn't confidently say something like, "I know I was wrong, but I don't regret it." He knew what Yiqing Luo said was because she was angry. She was angry that he had acted so rashly despite knowing the rules of the auction. With this, the Treasures Gathering Exchange didn't have the qualifications to participate in the auction at all. His impulsiveness had not only harmed the Treasure Exchange, and also harmed Yiqing Luo. This realization made Pei Sheng feel even more guilty. "I should have remembered your words. I should have used my actions to prove Treasure Gathering Society's name instead of acting rashly, but it had already happened." The people he had beaten up were the young masters of 3 of the top 10 trading houses in the trading world. To be able to rank in the top 10 trading houses, the power behind them was not to be underestimated. Those families definitely wouldn't allow Treasure Gathering to continue participating in the auction. Looking at the guilt on Pei Sheng's face, it was clear that he understood the mistake of his impulsiveness. The expression on Yiqing Luo's face eased up slightly. She leaned forward and gently patted Pei Sheng's shoulder. He seemed to be comforting Pei Sheng. As she approached Pei Sheng, she lowered her voice and said to Pei Sheng, "You should know that you are now representing the entire Treasure Assembly Exchange. Your every action will be closely watched by others. These 4 people, when the Treasures Trading House was in its prime, you should have been good brothers who talked about everything, right?" Chapter 3651. Obviously, she had guessed correctly again. Yiqing Luo continued, "These 4 people should be intentionally invited by mysterious maiden to agitate you, to lure you into making a move. In this way, treasure gathering will be removed from the auction." Pei Sheng's pupils suddenly shrank. Then what should we do?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Now you know how to be nervous?" I was wrong." Pei Sheng lowered his head, his tone full of guilt. Yiqing Luo released his shoulder and took a deep look at him. Naturally, she couldn't just watch as treasure gathering was removed from the list. Old Lai was here. The auction would most likely give face to the Underworld Palace. However, Yiqing Luo felt that Xiao Yilu might not give up so easily. She glanced at Pei Sheng again and sighed. Forget it. This time, he would treat it as a lesson for Pei Sheng. Being able to change the fact that he would go berserk and ignore the consequences whenever he heard insulting words about his father was not a bad thing. However, before this, she still had one more thing to settle. All right. Don't blame Boss Pei, Misty. I'm afraid this is just a misunderstanding. Don't let a misunderstanding affect everyone's relationship. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo had stopped reprimanding Pearson, City Lord Lu immediately spoke up to smooth things over. Since Di Luo would reprimand Pei Sheng, this meant that Di Luo was trying to resolve this issue. This was an inevitable choice. At this critical juncture, the Treasures Exchange House was in a critical state. If he could avoid causing trouble or standing out, he would try his best to keep a low profile. As long as Di Luo was willing to relent, this matter would definitely be resolved satisfactorily. City Lord Lu heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Then, he looked at the 4 representatives of the auction house with a dignified expression. Since this matter is a misunderstanding, let's shake hands and make peace. Wait for the auction to begin and don't cause any more trouble. The 4 representatives of the trading house were supporting their young masters. When they heard City Lord Lu's words, their faces turned green. He had beaten their young master into a pig's head. How could he say it was a misunderstanding? This was especially true for the representative of the trading firm, who had been beaten to the brink of death and had almost lost half of his life. However, looking at the warning look in Lord Lu's eyes, behind City Lord Lu, there were 2 executive elders with ashen faces. In the end, he kept his mouth shut. They still wanted to participate in the auction. The threat in City Lord Lu's words just now was very obvious. They did not dare to resent City Lord Lu and the executive elder. So he placed all his anger onto the Treasures Exchange Hall, especially on Yi Qing Luo. Seeing that the representatives of the 4 trading houses had tacitly agreed with City Lord Lu's words. City Lord Lu then smiled at Yi Qing Luo. Misty. He had only spat out 3 words. The girl's cold, mocking voice rang in his ears. Misunderstanding? Who told you that this was a misunderstanding? City Lord Lu was taken aback. What? Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms in front of her chest as she slightly raised her chin and sneered at City Lord Lu. The auction is such a strict and solemn place, and this group of people actually gathered together to bully our treasures trading house. Try to join hands to chase them away from the second floor. She snorted coldly and slowly took a step forward. He took a step forward. The crowd could only feel an invisible pressure pressing down on them. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she sneered. They're only questioning City Lord Lu's arrangements? Does City Lord Lu think that this is a misunderstanding? The faces of the representatives of the 4 trading houses alternated between green and white. Chapter 3652. What gathering a crowd to bully Bao Ju? It was obviously their young master. Yet he was beaten up by Pei Sheng, all right? They swallowed their anger and didn't haggle over it. This young lady actually dared to find trouble with them? One City Lord Lu's expression didn't look too good. Although Yi Qing Luo's words seemed to be speaking up for him, teaching those who doubted his authority. But this was obviously Yi Qing Luo intentionally dragged him into this. Yi Qing Luo had no intention to let these 4 representatives off. Yi Qing Luo's action, which made Pei Sheng slightly astonished. He didn't quite understand. Luo clearly knew that he was in the wrong for beating them up. City Lord Lu and the executive elder didn't pursue the matter and let Bao Ju continue to stay in the auction. This was already the biggest preferential treatment, wasn't it? Pei Sheng looked at Qiao Yinyan in puzzlement, hoping to get an answer. But he saw Qiao Yinyan's puzzled face. But at the next moment, Qiao Yinyan seemed to have thought of something as a smile surfaced on his face. Pei Sheng was puzzled. Qiao Yinyan walked to his side and lightly patted his shoulder as he spoke in a low voice. Earlier, Luo saw the scene of you being bullied by those 4 people outside the door. She is the most protective and can't tolerate anyone bullying her brother in front of her. She is helping you to vent your anger. Qiao Yinyan's words made Pei Sheng stunned on the spot. His eyes widened, and there seemed to be something churning in his heart. Luo did it for him, so she did it in this way. Yi Qing Luo's overbearing manner and her righteous words made the other party unable to say a single word of rebuttal. City Lord Lu tried to interrupt Yi Qing Luo's words several times. but he was interrupted by Yi-Ching Luo's extremely fast speed. In the end, City Lord Lu's face was steely green, and when Yi-Ching Luo stopped, he asked with a black face, "According to Misty's meaning, what does Misty want?" Yi-Ching Luo raised her brows as she slightly raised her chin and smiled. Towards this kind of trading house which doesn't know how to respect the auction's rules and also doubts City Lord Lu's decision, I feel that we should directly cancel their right to participate in the auction. The minute Yi-Ching Luo's words were heard, the surrounding people started to draw in cold air. The faces of the 4 trading house representatives were livid, and they couldn't help but want to curse angrily. But Yi-Ching Luo sighed again, but in this way. The punishment towards them is equivalent to cutting off the trading house's escape route. I'm such a kind-hearted person, so I definitely can't bear to do that. As she spoke, she blinked her charming eyes. With a "I'm pure, I'm kind" expression on her face, she looked at the 4 trading house representatives with a smile. "How about this? Aside from apologizing to Treasure Gathering, I'll punish you by disqualifying you from staying in the private rooms on the 2nd floor. All of you can go to the 1st floor and participate in the auction." The representatives of the 4 trading houses looked as if a dye vat had been opened. The faces of Governor Lu and the executive elder were extremely ugly. The 2 executive elders looked at each other and said solemnly, "This matter is of great importance. Give us some time to consider." Yi-Ching Luo shrugged her shoulders. "Take your time to consider. After all, I am so kind." The representatives of the 4 trading houses almost vomited blood as they cursed in their hearts. "Kind my ass." The executive elder pulled City Lord Lu and walked towards the direction where there were fewer people. Chapter 3653. City Lord Lu shook his head. "I haven't found out her identity yet. What relationship does she have with Hell Palace?" Executive Elder's expression was grave. Details that no one else had noticed. Executive Elder sensed it. That Hell Palace senior was very obedient to the young lady's words. No matter what he did, he seemed to notice the young lady's expression. As long as the young lady gave a signal, he would immediately take action. One must know, that bunch of lunatics from Hell Palace were known as the most feared lunatics in the Earth Realm. That wasn't without reason. That bunch of lunatics had no rationality at all. They acted according to their own interests. Every powerhouse in the Earth Realm wanted to climb up to Hell Palace. But at the same time, they were afraid of Hell Palace. There was no one who could make the Hell Palace's lunatics treat them with respect. That young lady was someone who could order people from Hell Palace around. Who on earth was she? Before they were clear about this matter, the 2 executive elders didn't dare to show any unhappiness towards Yi-Ching Luo. City Lord Lu's expression turned ugly as he glanced at Yi-Ching Luo, who was standing not too far away with an indifferent attitude as he clenched his fists. "I heard from Hell Palace's senior that the young lady named Di Luo is their Hell Palace's distinguished guest." Hell Palace's distinguished guest? Executive Elder's brows creased tightly. What kind of distinguished guest could Hell Palace have? Who could make Hell Palace's people treat them as a distinguished guest? I'm not too sure about the exact situation. City Lord Lu had some suspicions towards Yi-Ching Luo, but after this period of observation, Hell Palace's attitude towards Misty is absolutely not fake. Executive Elder exchanged glances. If it really implicates Hell Palace and messes up the auction, this is not just our Executive Elder's responsibility. City Lord Lu nodded. On account of Hell Palace's face, we'd better try our best to satisfy Misty's request. If they made Hell Palace's senior unhappy, Hell Palace came to create a scene. This year's auction would definitely turn to a joke. All those who were in charge of the auction had to bear this responsibility. They didn't want to be the scapegoat. It was better to turn a big problem into a small one and a small one into nothing. At most, after this matter had ended, they would personally talk to those powerhouses behind the exchange. They would personally talk to them. Those forces would more or less give them some face. Pay more attention to the Treasures Gathering Exchange Hall, so as to avoid any other strange occurrences during the auction. After the Executive Elder made his decision, he gave a few more instructions. City Lord Lu replied, The three of them returned together to Yi Qing Luo and the others. Yi Qing Luo looked at them smilingly. Between her long and narrow eyes, light flowed, like rippling streams of light, shining resplendently. It was a smile that could topple a city. However, when City Lord Lu and the two executive elders saw this, they felt their chests tighten. Ahem. After our discussion, we feel that Misty's words make sense. City Lord Lu cleared his throat and announced the decision of the three of them. When the words left his mouth, the faces of the representatives of the four trading houses immediately darkened as they stared at City Lord Lu in disbelief. He was about to open his mouth to argue. Suddenly, a cold and dignified voice stopped City Lord Lu from continuing. Wait. Along with the sound, a hurricane swept through the corridor on the second floor. Following that, two figures appeared before the crowd with lightning speed. Two figures, one tall and one short, one slender like a Lolita. Chapter 36:54. The tall, slender woman's cold and arrogant voice resounded. It's not easy to determine who is right and who is wrong in this matter. The air around the two of them dissipated. The figures of the two people were revealed. The two of them were dressed in lotus green robes, and their auras were very strong. Moreover, their expressions were extremely arrogant and unapproachable. City Lord Lu's expression changed slightly upon seeing the two. He secretly exchanged a glance with the executive elder. Then, he cupped his hands at the two of them without any change in his expression. Hall Master Ji, Hall Master Lu, why are you two here? If we don't come, are we going to allow the three of you to casually sentence the other trading houses? The lady sneered as she shot a cold glance towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. City Lord Lu had an awkward look on his face. The executive elder also felt a bit awkward and didn't retort. The appearance of these two people immediately controlled the rhythm of the entire situation. This boldness made Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but take a few more glances. These two are the hall masters of the Ling Long Palace's branch, Qiao Yinyan explained. Generally speaking, the auction assembly is formed by the executive elder and the Ling Long Palace's branch hall. Then, there was the city lord of the main city where the auction was held. The CEO was in charge of all the rules and procedures of the annual auction. In other words, they were the representatives of the rules and laws. As for the Ling Long Palace's branch hall, it is responsible for the safety and order of the auction. In other words, one was civil and the other was military. This was because the Ling Long Palace was a place to nurture the Empyrean fairy. It was a mysterious existence. The people from the Ling Long Palace's branch were in charge of the safety and order of the auction. Basically, no one dared to play tricks in the auction. In the past, there had been cases of people killing and robbing people before and after the auction. All of them were chased to the ends of the world by the Ling Long Palace's branch hall, and in the end, they died without a complete corpse. After listening to Qiao Yinyan's explanation, Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed. Ling Long Palace, the palace of Ling Long that nurtured Qiao Yulu. This meant that they had come with ill intentions. Moreover, it could be seen, whether it was City Lord Lu or the executive elder. When facing the two hall masters of the two halls, Zhang Xian's expression changed. His arrogance was suppressed to a very low level. It was as if he was afraid of something. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she directly asked the doubt in her heart. Qiao Yinyan glanced in the direction of the hall master and executive elder and said, "They're afraid of the Ling Long Palace, a place that could cultivate the Empyrean fairy." Naturally, it was not an ordinary place. When the people of the Earth Domain faced the Ling Long Palace, the Earth Domain's people had no choice. It was like facing the four great sects of the Nirvana realm. A kind of fear and respect had been born in his heart. Looks like my pretentious act is going to fail. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows and said with a chuckle. Qiao Yinyan's expression was still very calm. You don't seem to be panicking. Yi Qing Luo shrugged her shoulders. I'm in the right. Naturally, I won't panic. While the two were talking, those two hall masters had already sized Yi Qing Luo up from head to toe. The eyes of the lowly hall master Lu were filled with disdain and mockery. She ridiculed as her red lips curled upwards, as her lively and adorable big eyes sparkled with a chilly luster. The treasure trading house had seriously injured the representatives of the other 4 trading houses, and even fell into a coma. Don't tell me that the person in charge of the treasure trading house doesn't intend to say anything. Pei Sheng was locked onto by Hall Master Lu's gaze. His entire person froze on the spot. Chapter 3655. I'm asking about the person in charge of treasure gathering, are you? Hall Master Lu glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo as he spoke in an arrogant tone. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Was he trying to intimidate her by showing off his power? Yiqing Luo raised her brows but didn't say another word. She took a look at Pei Sheng as she elbowed him. Pei Sheng's breathing halted as sweat started to form on his forehead. Why? The person in charge of treasure gathering has nothing to say? Since that's the case, that means he has tacitly agreed to the act of beating up the other 4 representatives till they fainted. Hall Master Lu's tone suddenly rose. That adorable Lolita face was filled with a dark aura. The sweat on Pei Sheng's forehead continued to flow down his face and neck. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. Was this Hall Master Lu someone whom Xiao Yulu asked for help? Intentionally releasing his might, giving Pei Sheng an invisible pressure, causing Pei Sheng to be unable to maintain his consciousness, just to make Pei Sheng admit his own crime, and then to make use of this as a pretext? Pei Sheng's entire body tensed up as he was drenched in cold sweat, staining his robe. Suddenly, Xiao Yinyan walked up and raised his hand, placing it on Pei Sheng's shoulder. Pei Sheng's body trembled slightly, as though he was controlled by some kind of power. That pair of eyes, which had widened in fear, slowly regained its clarity and vigor. Person in charge of treasure gathering. Hall Master Lu frowned as he looked at Xiao Yinyan, probably because Xiao Yinyan was the eldest young master of the Qiao family. But he didn't say anything more. Pei Sheng raised his head abruptly as he looked straight at Hall Master Lu. His voice was slightly trembling, but he was still very clear. Regarding what Hall Master said, I have an objection. Hall Master Lu's expression congealed slightly as he looked in surprise at Pei Sheng, who had struggled free from her might, asking, What objection do you have? Pei Sheng's face trembled slightly as his eyelashes trembled violently. Apparently, he was feeling nervous. However, he still tried his best to maintain a calm tone as he replied, Hall Master, you should be very clear about the strength of the Treasures Exchange House over the past 5 years. This is my last chance, as well as my only chance. I won't be foolish enough to break the rules of the auction and cause myself to lose my only chance. You mean you didn't hit them? Hall Master Lu sneered. Pei Sheng shook his head. No, I did. Since you've made a move, you've broken the rules of the auction. Hall Master Lu looked at the executive elder and said, Since the person in charge of the treasure gathering hall has admitted to it, we'll deal with him according to the rules. Executive elder's expression changed slightly as he looked at Yiqing Luo apprehensively. Wait. Pei Sheng interrupted Hall Master Lu. I admit that I made a move, but it's not my fault. I don't think I should bear the responsibility. He didn't wait for Hall Chief Lu to refute and continued. As I said before, this is my only chance. I can't take the initiative to pick a fight. Even if I didn't take the initiative to provoke you, you still made a move on me. Pavilion Master Lu insisted on this point. Pei Sheng wanted to say something. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind brushed past him. A white shadow flew out. Powerful, profound qi burst out from his body. His hands, which were full of scars, were like sharp claws, and they went straight for Hall Master Lu's face. Hall Master Lu's expression turned grave as he quickly retreated. Hall Master Ji, who was watching from the side, immediately rushed forward and joined forces with Hall Master Lu to counterattack. Both of their expressions were severe as their palms struck downwards. The palm wind brushed past that white shadow. Chapter 3656. The sudden turn of events caused everyone's attention to be focused on him. Hence, everyone saw a slovenly-looking old man lying on the ground, clutching his stomach and rolling left and right. He kept saying, I owe yo murder, bullying an old man. Youngsters nowadays don't know how to respect the old and love the young. A few black lines appeared on the foreheads of the crowd when they heard that, because this old man who was lying on the ground, it was the senior from the Underworld Palace. How could the senior from the Underworld Palace be sent flying by the Linglong Hall Master? And he was lying on the ground, so weakly? Wasn't this too fantastical? That was what everyone was thinking. The two Hall Masters, who were originally filled with arrogance, also thought so. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale as his bright and adorable eyes widened. You're talking nonsense. We didn't hit you at all. Even if it was just the wind from our palms, it's not possible to hit your stomach. Old Lai, who was lying on the ground, moaning, suddenly paused and gave a faint oath. Following that, his hand moved to his chest. He continued to flop on the ground. Io, the Linglong Hall Master, is hitting someone at the auction, beating an old man like me who has no one to rely on and no strength to even truss a chicken. You're trying to take my life. Everyone, City Lord Lu and Executive Elder, the two Linglong Hall Masters, if this old man didn't do it on purpose, they would eat *T live. But no matter what everyone thought in their hearts, Old Lai insisted that the Hall Master was the one who hurt him. His entire body was in pain. He was on the verge of death. This hubbub. Not only the people on the second floor crowded around. Those who were attending the auction on the first floor all crowded over. At this moment, the faces of the two Hall Masters were dark and extremely ugly. Hearing the discussions of those onlookers who didn't know the truth, they gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. They couldn't wait to strike this old man who was creating trouble in front of them. The scene was chaotic. Xiao Yinyan's brows were filled with a smile. This move of yours is really vicious. Giving him a taste of his own medicine. Yiqing Luo replied calmly. He asked Lao Lai to put on a show. Even the Linglong Palace's Hall Master would have some misgivings. Because Old Lai represented the Hell Sect. It didn't matter if Old Lai was lying on the ground or not. Those were the Hall Masters of the Linglong Palace, the ones who had injured the people of the Underworld Palace. If news of this were to spread to the Underworld Palace, those lunatics from the Underworld Palace were definitely going to cause a huge commotion. Everyone was absolutely convinced. The Underworld Palace didn't care what kind of place the Linglong Palace was. Did they have the strength to fight against Linglong Palace? In any case, I'll just kill him first. No one could keep up with the Underworld Palace's train of thought. Therefore, the two Hall Masters of the Linglong Palace knew that Old Lai was pretending. However, he still did not dare to act rashly. Listening to the surrounding people pointing and gossiping, Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. He said in exasperation, "The Underworld Palace's people were injured because he attacked first. I was just defending myself. Besides, we're talking about the person in charge of Treasure's assembly right now. Don't try to confuse us." She tried hard to change the topic. However, he was interrupted by a contemptuous sneer. Hall Master Lu's gaze was sinister as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw that young lady who was standing in front of Pei Sheng slowly walking towards Old Lai. Chapter 36:57. No matter if Old Lai made the first move, but it's a fact that you injured him. Yiqing Luo was supporting Old Lai as she raised her head, staring coldly at Hall Master Lu. The moment she said that, Hall Master Lu's face turned green and red. This slut was repeating the words that she had said to Pei Sheng earlier on back onto her, not waiting for Hall Master Lu to speak. The young lady curled her pink lips again, slightly arching her brows, filled with contempt and disdain. As the person in charge of the auction, the executive, isn't it a bigger mistake to break the law knowingly? She paused slightly and continued. Of course, I'm not trying to confuse the public. Just like what Hall Master Lu said to Ah Sheng earlier, no matter what the reason is, Ah Sheng isn't the wrong since he made the first move. Then why is Hall Master Lu so stubbornly arguing that it was Old Lai who made the first move? It was only then that Hall Master Lu realized what it felt like to be sullen. Refute? How is she going to refute? If she retorted, wouldn't that be slapping her own mouth? If she didn't refute, did she really have to admit that she was in the wrong for injuring Hell Palace's people? Not to mention that after admitting it, she would slap her own mouth. Just say that she admitted to injuring Hell Palace's people. That would be forming a feud with Hell Palace's people. This was the first time Hall Master Lu felt so sullen. Hall Master Ji frowned arrogantly, looking at the rhythm, which was originally in her grasp, being easily taken away by a young lady. The gaze she shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with probing. Hall Master Lu cast a pleading look. Hall Master Ji's brows creased even tighter. But looking at the young lady's calm face, she still took a step forward. Her tone was cold, full of a royal elder sister's demeanor. This matter, the auction will give Hell Palace's senior an explanation. But the matter of treasure gatherings, person in charge injuring someone, there must be an explanation. While Hall Master Ji was saying this, her gaze was completely on Yi Qing Luo. The chilliness in her eyes seemed to be threatening Yi Qing Luo. Facing the incoming pressure, Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change as her lips curled into a faint arc. Her voice was calm. Hall Master Ji is right. Treasure gathering, indeed, needs an explanation. Yi Qing Luo raised her chin slightly. Boundless aura flames shot out from all directions, carrying with it a boundless might. It corroded Hall Master Ji and Hall Master Lu. Yi Qing Luo totally did not restrain her imposing manner. His gaze was like a burning torch as he stared at the two Hall Masters, and he said word by word, "It's common knowledge that a Shung's strength is weak, and he's just an ordinary profounder. And through the discussions of the surrounding people, understand some things." She raised her hand and pointed to the front, in the direction of the representatives of the 4 trading houses. Although they are all hedonistic sons of rich families, their strength is not bad under the nurturing of the forces behind them. At least, they are above Asham. Yi Qing Luo's tone abruptly rose as her tone became heavier. For cultivators who have been groomed against a weak Ashung who had never cultivated since 5 years ago. She paused for a moment and fixed her gaze on the Hall Master. "Please tell me, Hall Masters, how did Ashung defeat the 4 of them by himself? Furthermore, the 4 of them had no chance to retaliate." Following Yi Qing Luo's interrogation, the people around all sucked in a breath of cold air. What she said was simply too logical. No matter who it was, they were unable to believe it. Chapter 3658. If there was no plan behind this, no premeditated, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Wait a minute, plan? Premeditated? Why? To design a trading house, which had been at the bottom of the auction for 4 consecutive years? This stance was obviously to make use of the person in charge of the treasure-gathering trading house, to injure the representatives of the other 4 trading houses, to cancel the treasure-gathering's qualification to participate in the auction. Not only to cancel the auction's qualification, but also to offend the 4 top 10 trading houses. Even if the treasure gathering was removed from the auction, that would also incur the revenge of the 4 trading houses. He was planning on killing Zhu Bao, not giving Zhu Bao the slightest chance of survival. Who on earth had such a huge enmity with the treasure gathering? This answer surfaced in everyone's mind, but no one dared to say out that person's name. When Yi Qing Luo raised this doubt, the expressions of the 2 Hall Masters froze on their faces. Their faces were dead silent and pitch black. There was no need to guess. The person who wanted to put the treasure gathering to death, other than Xiao Yulu, there was no second person. Their own minds followed Yi Qing Luo's words as Xiao Yulu's figure surfaced. Not to mention the surrounding crowd. The 2 Hall Masters exchanged glances with one another, being stirred up by Yi Qing Luo. Their motive had become extremely tricky, and at this moment, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to let it go. Her eyes were calm, as her smile was faint. The flame around her was slightly still. Previously, Ashung also said that this is the treasure gathering's one and only chance. Who in the entire without embroiling city doesn't know that Ashung treats the treasure gathering as his own life? Who would use their own life as a joke? Speaking to this point, Yi Qing Luo intentionally stopped talking. A pair of originally indifferent eyes suddenly became as sharp as a blade as it swept across the surrounding crowd. Wherever her gaze landed, it was as if she was covered by ice. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Finally, the young lady's gaze fixed on the hall master. It was at that moment the young lady's flame suddenly exploded. An invisible pressure densely spread in the air. She looked at the hall master, speaking word by word. I seriously suspect that someone wants to make use of this opportunity to frame the treasure gathering, to scheme against it. As a partner treasure gathering, I raise an objection to the auction. I hope that the auction can give treasure gathering an explanation. The girl's voice was sonorous and forceful. It also had an irresistible charm. It was extremely shocking. Even the two hall masters were stunned by Yi Qing Luo until their pupils went into a daze as they stood rooted to the ground. After a long while, Hall Master Ji finally regained his senses and said, Everything you said is just your guess. The injuries on the representatives of the 4 trading firms can't be faked. Little girl, do you mean the fact that I was injured by the two of you is fake? Lao Lai, who was lying on the ground, felt unbalanced. He abruptly sat up straight and pressed his hand on his chest as he coldly snorted and said, I've already made my intentions clear. Since you insist on using this matter to make things difficult for that kid Pei Shang, then I'll make things difficult for you. I'd like to see what kind of despicable abilities you people from Linglong Palace Hall have. He had to admit it. Old Lai's maneuver was simply amazing. This protectiveness was simply too amazing. Lao Lai's words successfully made the two hall masters' faces turn livid. At this moment, the two of them could be said to be riding a tiger, unable to back down. Chapter 36:59. Not only would Pei Sheng not be punished according to the original plan, they would also bear the burden of Linglong Palace was afraid of the Underworld Palace. If such words were spread out, Linglong Palace would never let them off. However, if they really disregarded Old Lai's reputation and insisted on using Pei Shang's injury incident as a pretext to make a fuss, that would be openly challenging the Underworld Palace. When the Underworld Palace really went crazy and rushed to Linglong Palace to make a scene, the two of them would be the ones to bear the blame. It was more likely that Linglong Palace would even want to appease the Underworld Palace. They would directly hand the two of them over. It was not right to advance or retreat. Hall Master Lu felt like vomiting blood. She kept looking at Castellan Lu and the executive elder. However, those people all averted their gazes, deliberately avoiding eye contact with her. Her bright eyes flickered. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the tall figure of Hall Master Ji. A trace of treachery flashed in her eyes. She was about to speak. The person beside him suddenly raised his voice, interrupting Hall Master Lu's words before he could speak. Rules are rules. No one can violate the rules of the auction. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. If everyone was like you, fighting in the trading hall because of a disagreement, wouldn't the auction be in a mess? Hall Master Ji looked impartial and said solemnly, no matter what the person in charge of the auction house did, whether it was a scheme or a trap, now, he has to accept the punishment for injuring someone. She paused and suddenly raised her hand to grab Hall Master Lu, who was as petite as a Lolita. Hall Master Lu did not have time to react. Her arms were already grabbed by Hall Master Ji. She couldn't even break free from his grip. Hall Master Lu's expression was cold. Of course, as the person in charge of the auction, it is a fact that Hall Master Lu injured someone. Therefore, Hall Master Lu will also punish him according to the rules of the auction. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. She turned her head and glared at Hall Master Ji. However, Hall Master Ji did not seem to notice her gaze at all. Instead, he looked at Castellan Lu and the executive elder with a straight face and said, How about we settle this matter this way? Everyone was shocked. He really didn't expect that. Hall Master Ji was willing to sacrifice his comrade's life. He was determined to get Pei Sheng off the stage. Just how big a grudge was this? When Yiqing Luo heard Hall Master Ji's words, her brows sunk slightly. She hadn't expected that either. To think that Hall Master Ji would resort to such a self-harming method to get Pei Sheng to leave the auction. He had made up his mind, not letting her win the honor of the best trading house for treasure gathering auction. This time, this is going to be difficult. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased as her mind spun quickly. At this moment, suddenly, the door of a private room that had been tightly shut not far away slowly opened. A man dressed in black as a dark guard slowly walked through the crowd and walked over. The crowd was initially very impatient because of the pushing and shoving. But as soon as he saw the black-clothed hidden guard, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them suppressed all their emotions in their hearts. They obediently made way for the black-clothed secret guard to pass. The black-clothed shadow guard walked up to the two hall masters. The discussions in the surroundings came to an abrupt halt. The entire corridor on the second floor fell into silence. Chapter 3660. When the black-clothed secret guard spoke, Yi Qing Luo could obviously hear a series of breaths being sucked in. Even Hall Master Ji's face darkened and darkened. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He couldn't understand why this black-clothed hidden guard would come out to help the treasure-gathering trading house. Those from the Scarlet Clear Pavilion. Qiao Yinyan couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the black-clothed hidden guard. He squinted his eyes as his gaze slowly shifted onto Yi Qing Luo. He felt that the people from the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion did not appear to help the treasure-gathering exchange house. It was because of Luo. It was an intuition. However, why would Luo be in contact with people from the Red Clearness Pavilion? Red Clear Pavilion? Yi Qing Luo heard Qiao Yinyan's mutter and looked over in puzzlement. Qiao Yinyan was taken aback. You don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Yi Qing Luo hesitated for a moment. I don't really listen to the news from the outside world. She was someone who had just come to the upper realm from the Nirvana realm not too long ago. She didn't know anything about the famous people in the Earth realm. It was Elderwind Song, Old Man Song, who had been asleep for many years, probably wouldn't understand either. Qiao Yinyan shifted a few steps closer to Yi Qing Luo. The two hall masters' gazes shifted onto Yi Qing Luo. His eyes were surging with endless anger, but he didn't dare to flare up. Qiao Yinyan stared at him and said in a low voice, "The Red Clear Pavilion is a mysterious force in the upper realm. They travel to various places in the upper realm, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Rumor has it that Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master is someone from the heaven realm, and his strength is extraordinary." A mysterious force? A mysterious force created by the people of heaven realm. It was no wonder that when the citizens saw the black-clothed shadow guards, they were terrified. They all became respectful and courteous, not daring to utter a single word. They were all afraid of the power of the Red Clear Pavilion. However, with the strength of the heaven realm, why would they appear and speak up for Zhu Bao? You really don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Qiao Yinyan saw Yi Qing Luo's enlightened expression as he was astonished. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. Although it sounds very powerful, but I really don't know. Qiao Yinyan narrowed his eyes. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose. Surely you don't think that the reason why the Red Clear Pavilion spoke up for the Treasures Exchange Hall is because of me? I'm not assuming. Qiao Yinyan glanced at her. I'm sure. Yi Qing Luo. She obviously had a physique that attracted hatred wherever she went. It wasn't a physique that could attract people's liking and make people help them. While they were talking, Hall Master Ji had already loosened his grip on Hall Master Lu. Hall Master Ji's face darkened. Why is the pavilion master here? This is not something you can ask. The black-clothed shadow guard said coldly. Hall Master Ji's face turned ashen when he was rebuked in front of everyone. He averted his gaze in embarrassment. Hall Master Lu sneered as he glanced at Hall Master Ji. He was still holding a grudge against Hall Master Ji for what she had done to him earlier. Hall Master Lu sneered. What a pity. Lord Pavilion Master wanted to protect the treasures trading house, but your plans have all failed. We're working together. Hall Master Ji clenched his fists and glared at Zhang Xian angrily. Do you think you're any better than me? I'm happy to see you unhappy, Hall Master Lu said disapprovingly. Just as the two Hall Masters were about to start a fight, City Lord Lu immediately came out to smooth things over. All right. Since the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master has personally testified for the Treasures Exchange Hall, that means that this matter is indeed not the Treasures Exchange Hall's fault. Chapter 3661. How could this be? The representatives of the 4 trading houses, who were supporting their young masters, immediately turned pale. This is clearly him. You. How could you? They couldn't even speak clearly. Obviously, they were very angry. City Lord Lu didn't wait for them to finish speaking and had already interrupted them sternly. Misty is right. The young masters of these 4 trading houses used the rules of the auction to frame other trading houses. This kind of behavior is really too despicable. As the organizer, we will definitely give the treasure gathering an explanation. The executive elder also followed. This attitude made the representatives of the 4 trading houses so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. There was also the trading house that was dissatisfied and wanted to refute. However, it was stopped by the side of the trading house that was watching the show. Forget it. The Red Clear Court has already stepped in. It is already the best result that they didn't take your lives. You should be content. Don't make your situation even more ugly. The face of the representative of the trading house was flushed red. City Lord Lu coughed lightly in case of accidents, hurriedly called over the people of the 4 trading houses and directly forcibly took them downstairs. No matter how the 4 trading houses begged for mercy, no one cared, until the representatives of the 4 trading houses were directly thrown out of the auction in front of everyone's eyes. For a moment, they suffered all kinds of pointing and criticism from the citizens that came and went. Smelly old man, let me tell you, if you don't help me get justice today, I will definitely ask my father to kick you out of the trading house. When had the young masters who were beaten suffered such grievances? They instantly felt that they had lost face and started to shout. The representatives of the few trading houses looked at their young masters whose face was red and swollen like a pig's head. They really wanted to punch him. You dare to be arrogant now? Why is it that when you were inside, you were like a turtle with its head in its shell and didn't say a word? Of all people, you had to provoke the treasure-gathering trading house that has already climbed up the tree. You still have the face to blame us. Don't you have any eyesight? The treasure-gathering trading house was able to climb up after being at the bottom for as long as 4 years, and even let the auction house arrange the treasure gathering on the 2nd floor. You should know clearly, if it didn't have this ability, would it be arranged on the 2nd floor? You still have the face to yell at us. Think about how you're going to explain this to boss and the people behind you when you get back. The representatives were also fuming with rage. He was having a headache after being messed around by these few young masters. Young Master Wang held onto his broken hand and felt wronged. We didn't do it on purpose. It's all because of that woman. If we had known that treasure gathering had such a strong backer, we wouldn't have been bewitched by that woman. That woman is too ruthless. To think that she's the Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city. Bah! The 3 young masters, who were still conscious, ridiculed each other. The representatives understood the deeper meaning behind his words, and their expressions froze. What woman? What Empyrean fairy? It's the Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city, that Princess Yulu. She told us where the treasure-gathering hall is located on the 2nd floor and intentionally provoked us to go over and greet her. The representatives looked at each other. The Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city. Their eyes lit up, and they quickly walked toward the auction. We want to see City Lord Lu. We have something to say. At this moment, the people on the 2nd floor had no idea what was happening below. Chapter 3662. Yiqing Luo speechlessly looked at the fawning City Lord Lu. The moment the people from Red Clear Pavilion appeared, everyone felt that this Red Clear Pavilion was here for her. Defukov Misty, that old lie who was originally injured, suddenly jumped up from the ground and rushed to Yiqing Luo's side. What did you hook up with the people from Red Clear Pavilion? You obviously agreed to let me help you. How could I let that Red Clear Pavilion snatch my limelight? Old Lie's face was filled with unwillingness as he stared resentfully at the black-robed guard. Yiqing Luo once again. Damn it, she really didn't know anyone from Red Clear Pavilion, and had nothing to do with people from Heaven Realm. No, that's not right. Jean Z was also considered as someone from Heaven Realm. But Jinzi, that Huang Fu family's man. When he saw her, he probably couldn't wait to find trouble with her. It was impossible for him to use the name of Red Clear Pavilion to help. So a large group of people thought that Red Clear Pavilion appeared because of her. What kind of joke was this? Just at this moment, the black-clothed dark team guard, whom Old Lai had glared at with hatred, walked toward them step by step. Every step he took, Yiqing Luo's brows creased slightly. Old Lai directly stood in front of her and opened up his arms, blocking her behind his back. Following that, he put on a protective expression. People from Red Clear Pavilion, this is Hell Palace's VIP. Don't even think of snatching. However, his valiant and high-spirited declaration of sovereignty didn't make the black-robed guard's expression waver at all. The black-robed guard only stood in front of Old Lai. His vision went past Old Lai and looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Miss, my master invites you over." Everyone stared at the black-robed guard in astonishment and looked at Yiqing Luo. Everyone's faces were filled with shock and disbelief. Whereas Qiao Yinyan, Pei Sheng, and Old Man Song all had an expression of, indeed, they were here for Ah Luo. Yiqing Luo, Motherf Asterisk Kerr, Red Clear Pavilion's target, was really for her. Mississippi, the black-robed guard called out in a heavy tone. Yiqing Luo gathered her thoughts and frowned at him. Who is your master? It didn't take long for her to reach the Earth domain. This Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master, who was known as a mysterious force, actually wanted to see her. This action of speaking up for the treasures trading firm, was it a good deed or a bad deed? The black-clothed secret guard said indifferently, "You will know once you follow me in." Yiqing Luo's brows rose. "If you don't explain clearly, I'm just a young lady with no strength to truss a chicken, with a devastatingly beautiful face. If I follow you like this, what should I do if your master's bestial nature flares up?" As she spoke, she waved her hand. I'm not going. The onlookers, too weak to even strangle a chicken? Girl, are you sure you understand the true meaning of this word? Furthermore, if the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion really took a fancy to you and his bestial nature was unleashed, wouldn't that be your good fortune? Wasn't it enough to have the master of the Red Clarity Pavilion as his backing? The surrounding spectators all wished that they could enter the eyes of the Scarlet Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. The black-robed secret guard was apparently agitated by Yiqing Luo's shameless words. That expressionless face twitched a little. Following that, his cold eyes stared at Yiqing Luo as he spoke calmly. "Master said he guessed that you would say that, so he asked me to pass on a message to you." The crowd pricked up their ears. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. Chapter 3663. I go. Yiqing Luo's gaze turned cold as she raised her tone, interrupting the black-robed guard's words. Luo, Xiao Yinyan, and Pei Sheng looked worriedly at the black-robed guard and looked at Yiqing Luo. They totally didn't understand the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, leaving Luo alone to meet that mysterious man. How could they be at ease? Old Lai, who was ignored by the black-robed guard, had an ugly expression. "Who is your pavilion master? How dare you snatch someone from me? I'm telling you, with me here today, none of you can." Old Lai. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and placed it on Old Lai's shoulder. She patted lightly on Old Lai's shoulder. No matter, his master might be an old acquaintance. The name that the black-clothed secret guard had called out was misty. In other words, the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master knew her real identity. Most importantly, although the black-robed guard's expression was cold, his attitude towards her wasn't considered good. But she could tell. The other party didn't have any murderous intent. Moreover, the other party had appeared and helped her earlier. She was also curious who the other party was. Seeing Yiqing Luo's insistence, the few of them had a solemn expression as they looked at each other for a moment. Old Lai then put on an abandoned expression as he gave a heavy harumph. He strode towards the previous cabin and entered. City Lord Liu immediately tried to smooth things over with a smile. "The auction is about to start. Please don't take this episode to heart." Following that, he smiled towards Pei Sheng's direction. "Young Master Qiao, Boss Pei, both of you return to your cabin to rest for a while. I guarantee that no one else will disturb the treasure-gathering cabin. There was no need for his guarantee at all. The Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master had personally invited Di Luo. Who else would take things too hard to find trouble with the treasure gathering? Undercity Lord Liu and the executive elder's insistent request. The VIPs on the second floor also returned to their own cabins. But the topic of discussion was no longer about the auction, what good items would be put up for auction in the auction, but it was about Di Luo's identity, as well as the relationship between Di Luo and the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. On the other side, Yiqing Luo followed the black-robed guard and stopped at the entrance of the cabin. The black-clothed secret guard stopped in his tracks. He had no intention of entering. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the black-robed secret guard as she extended her perception towards the interior of the house. The bodyguard in black glanced at her and said indifferently, "I'll be waiting for you inside." Yiqing Luo's perception swept around. He didn't sense anyone's aura in the room. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She couldn't sense anything with her senses, or there was really nothing inside. Either that, or the person in the room was more powerful than her. Moreover, it was higher than her profound rank by at least 3 ranks. Although, in the Earth realm, there were countless people who had higher profound ranks than her. But, with her perception, even when facing Qiao Yulu, who had used external power to break through to the divine profound realm, she was still able to react. Her heart froze up tightly. "Miss Yi, if you're not willing to go in, I don't mind helping you." The black-robed secret guard saw Yiqing Luo not taking any action and opened his mouth to urge. True enough, this person knew her true identity. She raised her hand and placed it on the door handle. But she didn't push the door open. Instead, she raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. "Your master. Who exactly is he?" Chapter 3664. Yiqing Luo hadn't had the chance to probe further. Suddenly, the room door creaked open automatically. Yiqing Luo's hand, which was on the door handle, sank downwards. Her body unconsciously staggered forward. Her feet hit the door sill. Her entire body fell downwards. F***K. Yiqing Luo cursed in her heart. How unlucky could she be? She was about to take a deep breath to stabilize her body, which was about to kiss the earth. She hadn't had the time to react. She only felt a familiar smell coming from her nostrils. A simple yet elegant plum fragrance lingered in her nostrils. A pair of thick arms steadily caught her. Yiqing Luo froze. This aura was familiar, almost a whiff. Yiqing Luo was able to ascertain the other party's identity, but she couldn't understand. Why would he appear here? Yiqing Luo frowned as she struggled to break free from the wrist which was restraining her arm. But that arm which was supporting her suddenly increased the strength of his hands. Her delicate body was locked tightly in the other party's arms. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted even tighter. She looked up angrily. The moment she looked up, she met a pair of deep as the abyss, with a bottomless black pupils. That pair of eyes were extremely dark and gloomy. It was quiet and serene, without the slightest bit of brilliance. Just staring fixedly at Yiqing Luo. There was a trace of coldness in his eyes. However, if one were to look closely, one would be able to see deep emotions in the depths of those black eyes. Yiqing Luo's delicate body stiffened as her pink lips pursed slightly. Let go. She hugged the man at such a close distance. It made Yiqing Luo feel extremely uncomfortable. Her body was repulsed by any intimate touch from the opposite sex other than Mo Xian. I won't let go. The man opened his mouth. His voice was deep and his pair of dark eyes became increasingly deep. I miss you very much. Even when I see you, I can't bear to let go. Following his words, he even forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms. Both arms hugged the young lady's delicate body tightly, as though he wanted to taint the young lady's body with his scent. That plum fragrance, although simple yet elegant. But Yiqing Luo couldn't stand it. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she grabbed his hand that was restraining her. Zhu Wuxin, let go of me. The person in front of him, it was none other than Zhu Wuxin, Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo had not expected that she would be able to meet Zhu Wu Xian when she reached the Earth boundary. Previously, she had indeed guessed Zhu Wuxin's identity. He was definitely not just the castle lord of Death God Castle in the lower realm, or the Chu Wuxin who was respectfully addressed as young Master Zhu. However, she didn't expect Chu Wuxin to be such a famous figure in the upper three realms. Since he was a mysterious force in the upper realm, and it was said that he was from the heaven realm, why did he have to go to the lower world to cooperate with the palace of gloomy darkness? Moreover, since Zhu Wuxin was someone from the upper realm, it was impossible for him to do so. In that case, what happened when Zhu Wuxin and the original owner of this body decided on a relationship over 10 years ago? When Zhu Wuxin heard her soft rebuke, he laughed softly. A faint smile bloomed on that cold and contoured face. He smiled. Yiqing Luo, I finally heard you calling my name. I miss you so much. Yiqing Luo's face didn't show any joy of reuniting with an old friend. She pursed her lips tightly as her tone was displeased. If you want to reminisce about the past, let go of me now. Otherwise, if you continue to maintain this position, then there's nothing for us to talk about. Chapter 3665. Yiqing Luo, who had left Zhu Wu Xian's embrace, moved and immediately distanced herself from Zhu Wu Xian by 5 steps. She stood at the other corner of the room as she looked at him warily. Why are you here? Zhu Wu Xian was still smiling. It made his handsome face, which was cold and stiff, look much gentler in contrast. Especially that pair of deep black eyes. It was tainted with a faint warmth. This was a smile from the bottom of his heart. His vision had always been following Yiqing Luo, as though he was looking at his own treasure, cherishing in deep. You're here, so I'm here. Words filled with deep emotions, but made Yiqing Luo tremble. Follow me. No. Zhu Wu Xian replied straightforwardly. Yiqing Luo didn't let her guard down. Then how did you know that I'm here? Zhu Wu Xian remained silent for a moment as the emotions in his eyes had some changes. The only thing that didn't change was that he kept staring at Yiqing Luo, not willing to shift his gaze away. I know that you're in the Earth boundary, so I followed you here. He paused. When I heard the name Di Luo, I knew. It must be you. So here I am. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Xian for some time. Finally, she retracted her vigilant gaze. Based on Zhu Wu Xian's character, you shouldn't be lying. Why did you come here to look for me? Or could it be that the people from Secluded Palace are also in the Earth boundary? Yiqing Luo sat on the chair by the side, as she frowned slightly. She recalled the black-robed men who had set up the soul-devouring array and made use of Qiao Yilu to kill her. Those black-robed men seemed to want her soul. She had been guessing. Could those black-robed men be from Secluded Palace? Now that she saw Zhu Wu Xian, Yiqing Luo was even more suspicious of those black-robed men's identities. I've already canceled the collaboration with Secluded Palace. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes were burning as his dark eyes were filled with cloying gentleness. Yiqing Luo, Secluded Palace hurt you, so I can't help them anymore. Hurt me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. It seems that when we were in Nirvana realm, Secluded Palace had done quite a number of things to hurt me. Zhu Wu Xian's expression finally showed some changes. He frowned. I'm sorry. This baffling apology made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. Then, he understood the meaning behind Zhu Wuxin's apology. He was apologizing for working with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yiqing Luo met his gaze calmly and indifferently. There's no need to apologize for what has already happened. Moreover, this indeed has nothing much to do with you. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxin frowned. I don't like the look in your eyes, and I don't like you excluding me. Yiqing Luo stood up. Thank you for your help earlier. I will return this favor to you if there's a chance. As she spoke, she walked toward the door. The auction is about to begin. I'll head back to treasure gathering first. Yiqing Luo. Her feet had yet to move. Zhu Wuxin's low and hoarse voice came from behind. His voice was very soft, and there was a hint of hurt in it. An old friend reuniting in an old place. Must you use this kind of attitude to face me? I'm helping you, not because I want a favor from you. A young man who had always been indifferent. At this moment, he uttered a long string of words. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back and couldn't see her expression clearly. Chapter 3666. The more they got involved, it would only make Zhu Wu Xian's feelings for her grow deeper. She was unable to reciprocate his feelings. She shouldn't get too involved with Zhu Wu Xian. As for the favor of helping you gather treasure, no matter if you accept it or not, I will definitely return it. Yiqing Luo secretly said resolutely. Zhu Wu Xian fixed his gaze on the young lady's eyes. Looking at the young lady's pair of charming eyes, it was filled with sincerity and determination. His heart seemed to have been pierced fiercely by something. He could tell. Yiqing Luo really didn't want to get too involved with him. He could tell. Yiqing Luo was avoiding the feelings between them. His lips suddenly curled upwards as he smiled. That handsome, icy cold face seemed to surface with a layer of pain emotion. Obviously knowing that she didn't want to get too involved with him. Obviously knowing that she was unable to accept his feelings. But he couldn't control his heart. He couldn't control the urge to get closer to Yiqing Luo. Even if he was hated, at least in her heart, there was still a place for him. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes suddenly flashed. His figure followed closely and got closer to Yiqing Luo. The sudden plum fragrance assaulted her senses. Yiqing Luo staggered a step backwards, but her wrist was caught by Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. Zhu Wu Xian's grip became even tighter. His slender fingers wrapped tightly around her wrist. Beneath his eyes, there was a glint which hid a deep meaning which no one could see clearly. When Yiqing Luo met his eyes, she was stunned by his eyes which were as deep as the sea. You said, you want to return the favor, right? Zhu Wu Xian's voice was very low and filled with magnetism. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she slightly struggled against his hand, and her pink lips pursed slightly. Yes. Instead, Zhu Wuxin tightened his grip on her wrist and leaned forward. Yiqing Luo fell into Zhu Wu Xian's arms. Just as she was about to struggle, a man's low and hoarse voice floated from above her head. Then, the favor I want you to return is to accompany me during the auction. Yiqing Luo's hands were placed on his chest, trying to pull apart the distance between them. He was about to refuse. The man's voice floated down again. I don't ask you to stay by my side. I just want to watch you during the auction. Once the auction is over, I will leave the Earth domain. His voice sounded a little lonely. Just listening to it made one's heart ache. It's just a small request. Can't I? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with complicated emotions. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her heart felt heavy and uncomfortable. To be honest, she did not dislike Zhu Wuxin. She also admired his persistence in love, even if it was just his stubbornness and not love. But he still insisted that he liked her heart, if not for Zhu Wuxin's stubbornness towards her. Perhaps they could really become good friends. Listening to the man's low voice, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's heart wasn't feeling good at all. She sighed. Okay, I promise you. Zhu Wuxin loosened his arms around her, his eyes filled with a faint smile. Thank you. Yiqing Luo looked at him with a complicated expression. The usually cold young man, in front of her, was like a kid who had stolen candy. It was impossible to say that her heart wasn't touched. Of course, this touch didn't mean that she was touched by his feelings. Only, her heart ached a little. Her heart ached for his persistence towards the original owner. Chapter 3667. I need to go over and greet the brothers from the treasure gathering first. They will be worried. Yiqing Luo retreated a few steps away from Zhu Wu Xian and said. Zhu Wu Xian's brows rose. You just arrived in the Earth Realm not too long ago, and you've already integrated into the Earth Realm's lifestyle so quickly. He paused as he squinted his eyes. You even became brothers with those people? When Yiqing Luo heard that, she didn't reply him, but her eyes flickered slightly as she looked at him in puzzlement. Didn't you say that you didn't follow me? Then how do you know that I've just arrived in the Earth Realm not too long ago? According to what DMO Xian said, she had been in the Earth realm for at least a month. Zhu Wuxian didn't know that she had been unconscious for at least half a month before she regained consciousness. How could he be so certain that she had just arrived in the Earth realm not too long ago? Zhu Wuxian's expression didn't change as his deep eyes looked deeply at her. The day you left Nirvana realm, I sensed your presence disappearing in Nirvana realm, and I roughly guess your whereabouts. He laughed lightly, but you're indeed you. No matter where you go, there will always be people who will succumb to your charm. He smiled as he looked at her with a gentle and deep gaze. Yiqing Luo felt a little uncomfortable from that gaze. She averted her gaze and coughed lightly. Treat people with sincerity, and you will get those who treat you sincerely. I'll greet them first. Saying that, she hurriedly opened the room door and walked out. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back. Naturally, she didn't see it. At the instance when her gaze shifted away, that young man who was looking at her with a burning gaze had a slight change in his expression. He heaved a sigh of relief, as though he had avoided a certain topic. After coming out from Zhu Wuxian's cabin, Yiqing Luo felt the gazes from all directions converging onto her. Everyone was curious. Her relationship with the Red Clear Pavilion Master. They were all curious about the outcome after her meeting with the Red Clear Pavilion Master. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about those gazes which were shot at her. She headed directly towards the treasure-gathering cabin. Wherever she passed by, as long as there was someone passing by, they would subconsciously give way to her. Yiqing Luo, after getting involved with the Red Clear Pavilion Master, how could he even get preferential treatment? Before he could get far, he saw Pei Sheng and the others rushing over. On seeing that Yiqing Luo was safe and sound, his anxious and solemn expression loosened up. You're finally out. Xiao Yinyan sized up Yiqing Luo for a moment. Is the person inside Hongqing Pavilion's Pavilion Master? Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Are you really acquainted with the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion's Pavilion Master? Xiao Yinyan asked with a complicated expression. From seeing Yiqing Luo safe and sound, walking out of the Red Clear Pavilion's private room, basically, he could confirm it. The relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Red Clear Pavilion was not shallow. Xiao Yinyan was a little surprised. Not only did Yiqing Luo have a close relationship with the Hell Palace, now, even the Red Clear Pavilion had contacted them. Luo, did the Red Clarity Pavilion make things difficult for you? Pei Sheng asked worriedly. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I'm fine. I'm old friends with the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master. Go to the private room and wait first. If there's anything else, come over to this private room to look for me. Red Clear Pavilion's people won't dare to stop you. You're not coming back to the private room with us? Xiao Yinyan frowned. Chapter 3668. Xiao Yinyan's brows creased even tighter as his gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with deep thoughts. Yiqing Luo smiled at him. During the auction, mysterious maiden might make a move, so be careful. The two of them wanted to say something. But looking at Yiqing Luo's gaze, they didn't say anything in the end. After sending the two of them back to the cabin, Yiqing Luo then returned to Zhu Wuxian's cabin. Old Lai chased after her as he hollered, "Ask that whatever pavilion master from Red Clear Pavilion to come out and battle with me. He dares to snatch the person whom I want to protect." This clamor attracted the attention of even more people. Some of them were even more curious about Yiqing Luo's identity. Xiao Yinyan and Pei Sheng tried their best to persuade Old Lai to return. Hearing the holler behind her, Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly. She just stepped into the room. Between her nostrils, an elegant plum fragrance entered her nostrils. The young man's fingers moved as he stretched out towards the young lady. This time, the young lady was long prepared. Just as the plum fragrance assailed her nostrils, her figure had already agilely evaded to the side. The young man's hands hugged empty air. His hands froze in midair as he suddenly laughed lightly. "I thought you wouldn't come over." Yiqing Luo walked to the chair by the side and sat down as she lifted the curtain in front and looked at the scene of the auction on the first floor. "I promised you, so naturally I will come over." Zhu Wu Xian slowly walked to her side as his voice was slightly hoarse. You also promised to become my wife, but in the end, didn't you still go back on your words? Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. She couldn't possibly say that the person who promised to marry him wasn't her. Zhu Wuxian didn't continue to harp on this topic as he sat beside Yi Qing Luo. Hell Palace's people seem to value you very much. Since when were you able to subdue that bunch of lunatics from Hell Palace? The design of the second floor's cabin was extremely ingenious. Even if the covering curtain was lifted from all directions, including the first floor of the auction, no one was able to see clearly who the person in the cabin was. But even if they couldn't see the person in the cabin clearly, Yi Qing Luo also noticed that most of the people present were looking towards the direction of this cabin. Evidently, they were trying to guess exactly who from the Red Clarity Pavilion had come to the auction. Yi Qing Luo leaned back in the chair as she glanced sideways at the person beside her. Old Lai is just returning a favor. She paused for a moment before continuing. Moreover, the Underworld Palace isn't as complicated as you think it is. Their thoughts are relatively simple. As long as you treat them with the same simple attitude, they naturally won't go crazy over a single disagreement. That's only for you. Zhu Wuxian smiled as he shook his head. Even the Red Clarity Pavilion might not dare to fight with the Hell Palace. However, looking at the attitude of that person from the Hell Palace, I'm afraid a fight is unavoidable. I won't. Yi Qing Luo replied confidently. Old Lai knows that you're my friend, so he's just grumbling a little. Friend. Chu Wuxin chuckled and muttered these two words. His tone seemed to be mocking and self-deprecating. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flickered slightly, but she still didn't say a word. He just quietly looked down at the sea of people at the scene. After the matter of the hall master being attracted by the treasure gathering, the crowd was even more bustling than before. Quite a number of people were secretly trying to find out about Di Luo's identity. She didn't say a word. Zhu Wuxian didn't open his mouth as well. The two of them just remained silent. Yi Qing Luo looked at the first floor. Chapter 3669. Yi Qing Luo naturally felt the young man's scorching gaze beside her, but she didn't intentionally mention it. But if she cared, it would only make Zhu Wuxian feel that he had a deep influence on her. She didn't know when the auction would start. Yi Qing Luo simply emptied her mind and body as she started to revolve the profound energy in her body, lingering around the profound jade heart, training her own control towards the profound jade heart. Not knowing how long had passed, until she heard Zhu Wuxian's soft voice calling out to her. Yi Qing Luo blinked her slightly sore eyes in enlightenment. The auction has already started. Zhu Wuxian saw her regaining her senses and explained, You're here to take part in the auction should be to let the treasure gathering obtain the best trading house honor. I think you shouldn't wish to miss out on the other trading house's transaction amount, so I woke you up. His voice was calm without any undulations, but it still made Yi Qing Luo laugh in astonishment. Zhu Wuxian, this is the first time you've said so many words in one go, right? Zhu Wuxian's expression went into a daze, as though he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to reply him in this way, as his gaze subconsciously shifted to another place. It was rare to see Zhu Wuxian having such an expression. Yi Qing Luo laughed as she teased him. Following that, she placed her attention onto the auction below. The auction was currently bidding for the first item, according to the auction's rules towards the trading house. When they were bidding for the items, it wouldn't reveal which trading house the item belonged to. The first item was a rather good weapon, and the price had already reached 10,000 crystal stones, which was considered an extremely high price. In the end, this item was successfully auctioned off at 15,000 crystal stones. Following that, quite a number of auction items were brought up. One after another, the further it was, the more valuable the items were. The people who had rushed over from various main cities were getting more and more enthusiastic as they kept on bidding. It was until the seventh item when Yi Qing Luo saw the beauty cream being placed on the auction stage. The appearance of the beauty cream caused numerous ladies to cry out in shock. The auctioneer was someone who was decided by City Lord Lu and the Executive Elder. But due to Xiao Yulu's character, Yiqing Luo was still worried. She used her perceptive power to pay attention to the auctioneer and whether the beauty cream had been secretly swapped by someone. Zhu Wuxing noticed that her emotions had become tense. His gaze followed her gaze and looked towards the auction stage. He said, "Don't worry. Everyone in the auction knows that you're one of my people. They won't dare to play any tricks." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Red Clear Pavilion and Linglong Palace. Who is more powerful? The Hall of Nimbleness is just a legend in the Earth domain, but even the firmament knows of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion. The implication was that the Linglong Palace simply could not be compared to the Red Clear Pavilion. They were simply not on the same level. However, Yiqing Luo didn't let down her guard. Don't belittle a woman's jealousy. When a woman goes crazy, she might not even care about her own life. A hint of coldness flashed across Zhu Wuxing's eyes. That mystic fairy, right? There was a hint of killing intent in his tone. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at him. "This matter, I can settle it. Don't interfere." Since even the God Realm was aware of the power of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion, this was enough to prove that Zhu Wuxing's status was above the Earth Realm. Every realm had its own balance. If Zhu Wuxing attacked, he would destroy the balance in the land. Chapter 3670. Yiqing Luo didn't want this matter to blow up. That's true. You like to settle your own enemies. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have thought of something as he laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo took another look at him and didn't say a word as she turned her gaze back onto the auction house. The beautifying ointment had been promoted for the past 2 days. Basically, all the female customers present were all here for the beautifying ointment. Which lady didn't want to be beautiful? Which lady didn't wish for her skin to be as fair as snow? As the saying goes, whiteness can cover 100 ugliness. As long as she used the beautifying ointment to make herself younger and prettier, becoming even more beautiful and alluring. Who didn't want this magical ointment? The number of crystal stones in the auction increased by 10,000 by 10,000. Later on, it simply increased by 100,000 by 100,000. In just a short moment, it had already increased to 700,000 crystal stones. This price made all the representatives in the auction hall felt their hearts churning as they were unable to calm down. It also made all the bidders drew in a breath of cold air. This small bottle of ointment. It was actually auctioned to the highest price in the entire auction. Many of the male customers who were bidding crazily for the divine weapons, profound energy, raising pills, etc. were all shocked silly by this scene. Originally, they thought that their bidding was already crazy enough. Now looking at this group of ladies, as though they had gone mad, totally not caring about the crystal stones as they kept increasing the price. They only had one thought in their minds. This group of women had gone mad. This also made numerous businessmen saw a business opportunity. Speaking of which, it was much easier to earn crystal stones from women than men. In the end, the first bottle of beautifying ointment was directly auctioned off at the price of 1,300,000 crystal stones. Many ladies were forcefully stopped by the people around them from continuing to shout. There were also some ladies who were thinking, and based on the beautifying ointment. Now the price was very high. Later, when they were tired of shouting, the price would definitely drop. When that beautifying ointment was sold at 1,300,000 crystal stones, it was exchanged with the bidder. Then the next auction item was opened. Only, after the auction of the beautifying ointment, everyone's enthusiasm was almost depleted. They were all immersed in the fact that the price of the beautifying ointment had exceeded the total amount of all the items in the auction hall. Because of this, the auction for this item wasn't that intense. Everyone's emotions were still lingering on the beautifying cream. When the woman who won the bid for the beauty cream was about to leave the venue with it, he was surrounded by a large group of women. The women did not want to snatch the beautifying cream by force. After all, the hall master of the Linglong Palace was present. They were not crazy enough to ignore the rules. They stared at the beautifying cream with hope in their eyes. Miss, can you apply the beautifying cream in public for us to see? We want to witness the amazing effect of the beauty cream with our own eyes. These words were not some crafty plot. Instead, they were done on purpose. It was because most of the women did not see the effects of the beauty cream at the treasure-gathering site yesterday. I've only heard of it. Therefore, most of the women wanted to witness the effects of the beauty cream with their own eyes. The woman who had received the beauty cream had a look of terror on her face. She looked left and right at the frenzied women surrounding her, and she subconsciously wanted to turn around and flee the auction. He was surrounded by a group of women. He forced her to use the beauty cream in front of everyone. Chapter 3671. This scene was seen clearly by Yiqing Luo, who was sitting on the second floor. Her lips curled up as her long and narrow eyes squinted as she looked at the lady who was surrounded by everyone. She couldn't help but laugh softly. She probably doesn't know that once a woman goes crazy, it's very scary. Zhu Wuxian glanced at the direction of the second floor indifferently as his gaze shifted back to Yiqing Luo's face. His emotions were very indifferent as his voice was deep and calm. The her you're talking about should be referring to, not that lady who successfully bid for it, right? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. You can tell. Very obvious. Zhu Wuxian replied calmly. That lady is not the one who really bid for the beauty cream. If the beauty cream was really bid for by that lady, under so many envious gazes from so many ladies, any woman would have an involuntary sense of arrogance. In the auction, there was no need to worry about any safety issues. She could totally show off the beauty bomb that she had won in the auction to everyone. But that lady's face didn't reveal any arrogance or complacency. There was only fear and uneasiness. Zhu Wuxian continued. The one who really bid for the beauty cream should be that mysterious maiden. You can guess it? Yiqing Luo was astonished. Are you sure that you just came to Without Embroiling City today? The news of your bet with that Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden has already spread like wildfire. It's hard for me not to know about it. Zhu Wuxian's voice was very indifferent, but it was rare for him to say such a long sentence in one breath. Yiqing Luo didn't know if she believed him or had no interest to continue this topic. She propped her chin as she lazily leaned against the back of the chair and laughed lightly. Xiao Yulu will not be willing to lose to me. Even if it's because of that face of hers, she will not be willing. Speaking of this, her voice paused slightly. Her lips suddenly curled into a cold arc. She dared to bid for my beauty cream at a high price. That's enough to show that she has the confidence to take out something that can compete with the beauty cream. Xiao Yulu wanted the beauty cream, but she would absolutely not spend a huge sum to bid for it herself. She would absolutely not want to personally push the treasure gathering to the best trading house position. So, either Xiao Yulu wanted to snatch a few bottles of beauty cream first and control the bidding amount, then think of a way to let the trading house surpass the treasure gathering. Either Xiao Yulu was absolutely confident that she could surpass her. Yiqing Luo slowly narrowed her long and narrow eyes as a glint flashed past her eyes. Her curiosity was piqued. Yesterday, Xiao Yulu was still flustered and exasperated. Why was he so confident today? Last night, after hearing her opinion, Xiao Yinyin would probably keep a close eye on Xiao Yulu. If Xiao Yulu contacted the black-robed men who had set up the soul-devouring formation again, those secret guards who were secretly observing Xiao Yulu would definitely notice something unusual. If it wasn't for those men in black that gave Xiao Yulu so much confidence, Xiao Yulu wouldn't have been so confident. Then, where did Xiao Yulu's confidence come from? Do you need my help to investigate? Zhu Wuxian seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as he asked calmly. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly. Her fair fingers brushed across her smooth chin. She smiled and tilted her head. If you help me investigate, won't I owe you another favor? If you want to return it, then accompany me for a period of time after the auction ends. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was deep as he stared at her. Chapter 3672. The faint smile on Zhu Wuxian's lips turned slightly stiff. The lines on his face turned cold and hard. His pupils turned deep and dark. What you want to do is to look for the Overlord, right? Yiqing Luo nodded calmly. Yes, after the auction ends, I will immediately look for him. So it was impossible for her to use the method of repaying the favor to stay by Zhu Wuxian's side. Most importantly, she could not always use this method to repay the so-called favor. This method of repayment, on the contrary, it would make Zhu Wu Xian have other ideas. The reason why she agreed to stay in Zhu Wu Xian's cabin during the auction. Indeed, there was a little bit of heartache and complicated emotions towards Zhu Wu Xian, but it was absolutely not for the so-called repayment of the favor. Zhu Wu Xian's sudden appearance in the Earth boundary. He appeared with the identity of the mysterious powerhouse Red Clear Pavilion, which was above the Earth boundary. Yiqing Luo was very curious about what was Zhu Wu Xian's motive. Although Zhu Wu Xian said that he no longer had any collaboration with the Nether Palace. But after all, Zhu Wu Xian had once collaborated with the Nether Palace. The Nether Palace would not let go of Zhu Wu Xian's help so easily. Yiqing Luo felt that. Zhu Wu Xian's appearance in the Earth boundary was absolutely not as simple as just for her. As expected, Zhu Wu Xian's eyes sunk. He shifted his gaze slightly as he shot toward the auction grounds below. Yiqing Luo could sense that the imposing manner on him had become much more suppressed. Suddenly, a burst of exclamations rang in the auction grounds. Those ladies who were originally crowding around the lady who had successfully bid for the beauty ointment frantically rushed back to their own seats, only to hear the ladies shouting out their bids. The entire auction became bustling again. So, the second bottle of beauty ointment had appeared. That lady who was originally surrounded heaved a sigh of relief. Both her hands clutched the beauty ointment bottle tightly as she dashed out of the auction. At this moment, everyone was bidding crazily. None of the major forces and families in the other main cities were willing to give up and shout out a price. But moments later, that beauty ointment had already surpassed the price of the first bottle. This rising trend made the other trading houses dumbstruck. After that, what made everyone even more astonished was the other beautifying creams that were placed on the table were each more expensive than the last. It was as if those women weren't giving him crystals, but were just casually shouting out numbers. Originally, there were quite a number of women who thought that Yi Zichen was a woman. Now the price was so high, there would definitely be a lot of people who wouldn't have enough crystal stones to bid in the end. The beautifying cream later on would definitely be cheaper. However, when the 8th bottle of beauty ointment was sold at the price of 6 million crystal stones, the women began to panic, especially the last bottle of beauty cream. Almost all the women went crazy. The women had indeed gone mad. The people in charge of the other trading houses all looked at the women who were screaming their lungs out, as if they were crazy. What kind of stimulation did these girls suffer? Even if the beautifying cream really had the miraculous effect of making an ugly woman beautiful. Even so, there was no need to be so crazy, right? Spending so many crystal stones on a bottle of ointment? It would be better to buy more pills to increase his strength. Wasn't it said that the strong were respected and that strength was supreme? Was a face that important? At the same time, in a private room on the 2nd floor. Chapter 3673. The leader of Zhongxing trading firm stood behind Qiao Yulu with a pale face. Beads of cold sweat rolled down his head. Even the back of his black brocade robe was soaked by a pool of water. When he heard someone shout, 100 million crystal stones from below, he could not help but laugh. His entire body was trembling. Princess Yulu. Princess Yulu, you really can't shout anymore. He tried to persuade her with a trembling voice. The beauty ointment is something from treasure gathering. We are already close to 400 million crystals away from treasure gathering. Most importantly, this 400 million difference. Furthermore, this gap was created by their Princess Yulu. The leader really couldn't understand. Why did Princess Yulu insist on getting all 10 bottles of beauty ointment? Could it be that Princess Yulu had forgotten about her bet with treasure gathering? Did Princess Yulu not care about the consequences of losing the bet? Will the gap shrink if I don't continue to shout? Qiao Yulu looked at the leader coldly, her eyes full of killing intent. The leader's legs turned to jelly. I didn't mean that, but the leader really wanted to say, if she didn't insist on bidding for the beauty ointment, the price of the beauty ointment would definitely not be so many times higher. However, The leader didn't dare to say that. He could only hold back his tears and said with a trembling voice, We don't have enough crystals. If we continue to bid, we might not be able to take out so many crystals. If you don't have them, go to other trading firms to get them. In short, I want all these beauty ointment." Xiao Yulu's fingers were on the table. Her sharp fingernails left streaks of marks on the surface of the table. The leader's face was pale. On one side, he was worried, but on the other side, he was so happy that he almost screamed out loud. Pei Sheng couldn't believe that the beauty ointment would be auctioned off at such a high price. Now, their treasure-gathering trading firm was sitting on the throne of the highest number of bids. "Brother Qiao, am I dreaming?" Hearing the bid of 100 million crystal stones, Yang Kai felt a chill run down his spine. Pei Sheng had already gone crazy. He clenched his fists, unable to believe his eyes and ears. But when he turned around, he saw Qiao Yinyan's serious expression. The agitation on his face eased a little. He pursed his lips and sat beside Qiao Yinyan. "Brother Qiao, are you still worried about Aluo?" Qiao Yinyan looked up and glanced at him before lowering his eyes again. "Brother Qiao." Pei Sheng sensed that Qiao Yinyan's expression was very grave, and he started to panic. "I'm not worried about Aluo," Qiao Yinyan said indifferently. "Then why did you?" His face was heavy as if something big was about to happen. Of course, Pei Sheng didn't ask the rest of the question. Qiao Yinyan placed his hands on a railing and leaned over to look at the crazy scene on the first floor. He frowned slightly and said, "I have a very uneasy feeling." "What?" Pei Sheng asked. Qiao Yinyan shook his head. "The beauty ointment auction went too smoothly, so smoothly that I can't help but overthink." He lowered his head slightly, and his eyes darkened. There was a bottomless whirlpool in his eyes. Yiqing Luo and Chu Wu Xian could tell the problem. Qiao Yinyan naturally could tell as well. The ladies who had successfully bid for the beauty ointment one after another weren't the ones who had bid for it. After they bid for it, who would they bring the beauty ointment to? Qiao Yinyan guessed correctly. Outsiders didn't know that Xiao Yulu's looks were ruined. Chapter 3674. So Xiao Yulu had a huge need for the beauty cream. So these beauty cream, on the surface, were successfully auctioned by those ladies. In actual fact, these beauty cream would eventually end up in Xiao Yulu's hands. Now the amount of treasure gatherings transaction had obviously exceeded Zhongcheng's by over 10 times. For her own face, Xiao Yulu really didn't care about the bet with Yiqing Luo. No, Xiao Yinyan instantly rejected this thought. With Xiao Yulu's arrogance, she would absolutely not ignore the bet. There was no way she would embarrass herself as the Empyrean fairy in public. Xiao Yinyan felt that. Xiao Yulu might still have some tricks up her sleeves. This move to treasure gathering, or Yiqing Luo. What consequences would it cause? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy Xiao Yinyan felt. Zhu Wu Xian's cabin. Yiqing Luo yawned as she stretched herself. "Looks like the auction is about to end. This is the last bottle of beauty cream." Zhu Wu Xian's voice was calm. "Will you wait for the final result before leaving this place?" "Wait, of course I will wait." Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as she glanced sideways at Zhu Wu Xian. "I still have a bet with Xiao Yulu. Before the result is out, she might not let me leave." The corners of Zhu Wuxian's mouth twitched slightly as he smiled. "From your tone, do you think that you won't be able to win the bet with her this time? She hasn't released her big move, so I can't judge it easily." Yiqing Luo shrugged. "Zhu Wu Xian, big move." Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her fingers caressed the ring on her fingertip. "Of course. I'm also waiting for her big move to arrive." She laughed softly. Her gaze shot towards the auction house below. The radiance and deep meaning flowing in her eyes was extremely obvious. She shifted her gaze away. He ignored Chu Wuxian's slightly cold expression beside him. That pair of dull dark eyes revealed a biting, cold, murderous intent. While the two of them were conversing, the last bottle of beauty cream was successfully auctioned at the price of 123 million crystals. Everyone was shocked. All of their gazes towards Treasure Gathering's cabin had changed. Almost everyone was certain of it. The auction fair this time, Treasure Gathering Assembly took the top spot, This was beyond doubt. Who would have thought that treasure gathering would be at the bottom for 4 consecutive years? After climbing up a tall branch, there would be such earth-shattering changes. Everyone was both envious and jealous. This was simply a heaven-defying reversal. Just when everyone was envious of the treasure's trading firm and felt sorry for the Zhong Chang trading firm, the auctioneer's voice became extremely excited. Next up, it's time for the last auction item. A good auctioneer's emotions could move people's hearts. When the auctioneer's passionate and excited voice rang out, most people's attention was drawn there. Even during the bidding for the beautifying cream, the auctioneer had never been so excited. Everyone was naturally very curious. What exactly was the finale item of the auction? There was a hubbub of voices and endless discussions. The auctioneer raised the hammer in his hand high up. This is the last auction item. It is the auction item from Zhong Chang Exchange, which has been the best trading house in the land domain for 4 consecutive years. After the auctioneer finished speaking, it instantly caused an uproar in the surroundings. According to the rules, in the auction, every auction item which came from which trading firm was a secret. As the auction's resident auctioneer, how could he possibly not know this rule?